They were never meant to be found. Hidden beneath centuries of dust and silence, these objects challenge everything we think we know about our past. Artifacts that don't belong, advanced tools in prehistoric layers, carvings that depict machines long before machines existed, and relics that seem to whisper of forgotten civilizations erased from history. Each discovery defies explanation, and yet there they are, unearthed by chance, staring back at us like messages from another world. Were they the work of an ancient intelligence far beyond its time? Evidence of lost knowledge humanity once possessed? Or something not of this earth? For decades, scholars have debated, dismissed, and sometimes deliberately hidden these anomalies, perhaps because the truth is too disruptive, too impossible to accept. Tonight, we peel back the layers of time to confront these forbidden relics, the ones that rewrite the story of who we are and where we came from. So sit back, open your mind, and let's dive into the most bizarre archaeological discoveries that remain, to this day, utterly unexplained. Perched high in the Toluca Valley, nearly 65 kilometers northwest of Mexico City, lies the ancient site of Tecaxic-Calixtlahuaca, a ruined settlement once alive with the rhythm of pre-Columbian life. Stone terraces and remnants of temples still rest against the wind-blown hills, silent witnesses to centuries of forgotten rituals. It was here, in 1933, that archaeologist José García Payón uncovered something that should not have been there at all. Beneath 3 intact floors of a burial chamber, among turquoise beads, obsidian blades, and other unmistakably Mesoamerican artifacts, lay a small terracotta head, about the size of a human palm, finely modeled and strikingly different from everything else around it. The face was bearded, the features sharp and distinctly non-indigenous. To many eyes it seemed Roman. The burial itself was confidently dated between 1476 and 1510 CE, long before Europeans set foot in the Valley of Mexico. And yet, decades later, a thermoluminescence test would suggest the head was much older, possibly created sometime between the 9th century BCE and the 13th century CE. The dates overlapped enough to cause confusion, but not enough to erase the unease the find inspired. How could an apparently Roman artifact rest undisturbed in a pre-Hispanic tomb? Most scholars reached first for reasonable explanations. Perhaps the head was introduced later, a misplaced object dropped into the excavation by accident, or brought from Europe during the early colonial period and somehow buried with older remains. Maybe the stratigraphy had been disturbed by centuries of natural shifting. Some even suggested it could have been planted, intentionally or not, by someone working at the site. Yet others saw something far stranger. Art historians noted the beard, the hairstyle, and the pointed headdress, features consistent with Roman sculpture from the 2nd or 3rd century CE. If this were true, how had such an object crossed an ocean long before transatlantic contact was known to have occurred? Could it be evidence of forgotten voyages? Roman ships blown off course by storms, their cargo drifting for months before reaching unknown shores? Or could ancient trade routes, indirect and tenuous, have somehow linked the old world and the new, carrying with them fragments of cultures that never officially met? The questions multiply, but none settle comfortably. If it was truly Roman, where is the rest of the evidence? The other fragments? The traces of presence? If it was a later intrusion, why does the burial context appear untouched, sealed beneath centuries of architecture and ritual? The Tecaxic-Calixtlahuaca Head now rests quietly in museum collections, its mystery intact. It has been analyzed, debated, and dismissed, yet it continues to return in discussions of ancient contact, as though it resists being forgotten. It sits at the intersection of archaeology and possibility, where evidence meets imagination. Perhaps it is nothing more than coincidence, a misplaced curiosity. Or perhaps it is something more profound, a reminder that history, like the soil that guards its secrets, is layered, complex, and not yet fully known. And so, the small terracotta head continues to stare from behind the glass, its expression calm, almost knowing. What story does it hold? Was it a relic of distant travelers, a trade gift, or an elaborate mistake of time and context? For now, the truth remains buried, somewhere between the known and the impossible. As we leave behind the mysteries buried beneath the soil of ancient Mexico, our journey now drifts toward something far more elusive, an artifact not of stone or clay, but of ink and parchment. In a dimly lit chamber of the National Library of Sweden, a massive, centuries-old manuscript rests within a glass case. It radiates a quiet, unsettling power. Bound in thick leather, its pages yellowed with age, it is larger than any other medieval book ever made. Nearly a full meter tall, weighing over 75 kilograms, it has been called the Codex Gigas, Latin for the giant book. But it is known to most by another name, the Devil's Bible. The book's presence is commanding. Open it, and you're met with endless lines of neat Latin script, a meticulous hand that fills nearly every page without a single visible correction. The contents are vast, the complete Old and New Testaments, ancient histories by Josephus, medical treatises, calendars, even magical formulas and exorcisms. It is, in many ways, a compendium of medieval knowledge, all gathered into one monumental creation. Yet, halfway through its 1,000 pages, the tone shifts. A single full-page illustration interrupts the sacred text, a portrait unlike any found in any Bible before or since. The devil. Towering, monstrous, and crouched between twin towers. The figure's claws dig into the frame as it stares outward with an almost human awareness. Its tongue protrudes. Its eyes, wide and gleaming, seem to pierce through time. For centuries, this single image has fueled speculation, fear, and fascination alike. Legend claims that the Codex Gigas was written by one man, a monk who, having broken his vows, was sentenced to be walled alive in his cell. In a desperate bargain, he promised to create a book containing all human knowledge in a single night to atone for his sin. But as midnight approached and his task remained impossible, he turned to a darker power. He prayed, not to God, but to the devil. In exchange for his soul, the story goes, the devil completed the manuscript for him, and the monk, in gratitude, included his infernal portrait within its pages. Of course, historians treat this tale as a medieval legend, a moral allegory meant to caution against pride and forbidden knowledge. Yet the Codex Gigas itself defies simple explanation. For one, it was written by a single hand, a conclusion reached by experts who studied the uniformity of the script. There are no signs of multiple scribes, no variation in the ink, and no correction marks across hundreds of pages. Modern analysis suggests that the manuscript could have taken 20 to 30 years to complete by a single person working full-time, a lifetime devoted to one book. But what kind of mind would undertake such a task? And why does it contain not just scripture and law, but also dark incantations, medical recipes, and astrological charts, an unusual combination for a monastic text? The Codex's history adds more layers of mystery. Created in the early 13th century, likely in the Benedictine monastery of Podlages, in what is now the Czech Republic, the manuscript passed through turbulent hands. During the 30 Years' War, it was seized by Swedish troops in 1648 as spoils of conflict and taken to Stockholm, where it remains to this day. Some say it brought misfortune wherever it went, outbreaks of fire, sudden deaths, even the downfall of monasteries that possessed it. But perhaps the most haunting mystery lies not in what's written within, but in how it was written. Scholars estimate that it would require over 160 animal skins to create its parchment, an extraordinary sacrifice in both cost and labor. Each page is smooth, flawless, and remarkably well preserved, as though protected by something beyond simple craftsmanship. The text itself, written in precise, even strokes, shows no signs of fatigue or change in mood, as if penned in one continuous effort. That impossibility is what reignites the old legend. Could one man truly write such a vast tome, alone? Then there is the missing piece. At some unknown point, several pages were removed from the codex, torn cleanly out, without trace of who or when. Their content has never been recovered. Some suggest they contained monastic records or additional medical notes. Others, more imaginatively, believe they held secrets too dangerous to be read, incantations or formulas of forbidden power. Whatever they contained, their absence only deepens the enigma. Over the centuries, researchers have proposed rational explanations for nearly every aspect of the codex. Perhaps the image of the devil was simply symbolic, a vivid reminder of temptation and sin in a text filled with religious reflection. Perhaps the book's vastness was an act of devotion, not damnation, a monk's ultimate offering to God. But still, the precision of the writing, the consistency of the ink, and the sheer scale of the work raise questions that linger at the edges of faith and reason. Some modern theorists have gone further still. They suggest the codex might encode patterns or hidden messages, an early attempt at ciphers or sacred geometry. A few have even speculated that the book's creation was guided by trance or by something the scribe himself could not fully comprehend. To them, the Devil's Bible represents more than just human effort. It's a window into a consciousness, or an influence, beyond ordinary understanding. Today, visitors to the National Library of Sweden can stand before it, separated only by glass, and see what centuries of fire, war, and time could not destroy. The pages glow faintly under the controlled light. The devil still stares from his frame, unblinking, as though guarding the secrets inked beside him. And as we gaze at this colossal relic, equal parts scripture and shadow, we are left to wonder, who was the man who made it? What compelled him to write a book so vast, so ambitious, and so unnervingly strange? And in that long, sleepless night of creation, was he truly alone? Perhaps the Codex Gigas is not just a book, but a mirror, reflecting the dual nature of humanity itself, our yearning for divine understanding, and our dangerous curiosity about the darkness that lies just beyond it. What other secrets, still hidden in ancient libraries or forgotten monasteries, might yet emerge, waiting to challenge everything we think we know about the boundaries between faith, fear, and the unknown? From the shadows of medieval monasteries and the ink-stained pages of forbidden manuscripts, our search for unexplained artifacts now leads us to something even stranger, not written, but carved. Not a relic of faith, but one that seems to challenge the very boundaries of science itself. High in the cool, green mountains of Colombia, near the small town of Bogota, lies a region known for its ancient Muisca culture, people whose artistry and metalwork astonished even the Spanish conquistadors. Yet amid their gold offerings and ceremonial objects, one discovery stands apart from everything we know about pre-Columbian craftsmanship. It is a smooth black stone disc, about 27 centimeters in diameter, circular, polished, and carved with intricate patterns that defy simple interpretation. At first glance, it appears decorative, almost ritualistic. But look closer, and something else begins to emerge. The carvings seem to depict the stages of human reproduction, from cellular division to the formation of embryos, and finally the development of a fetus within the womb. Each figure, etched with microscopic precision, appears to narrate the process of life itself. This strange object has come to be known as the genetic disk. Its discovery, like much about its story, is surrounded by mystery. The disk was reportedly found in the 1990s by a gold prospector named El Señor Jaime Gutierrez Lega. Among other unusual artifacts made from the same dark material, a stone geologists call lyddite, or black shale. The stone's composition adds another layer of intrigue. Lyddite is incredibly hard, with a density comparable to granite, making it almost impossible to carve with primitive tools, yet the lines and details on the disc are smooth, uniform, and deeply engraved, as if cut with precision instruments. Some researchers have claimed that even with today's technology, reproducing such fine details on this material would be a considerable challenge. And so a question arises: who made it and how? Mainstream archaeologists point out that much of what we know about the genetic disk comes from private collections, not controlled excavations. Without an established archaeological context, it's difficult to verify its authenticity or determine its true age. Skeptics suggest it could be a modern creation, carved in recent decades and misinterpreted as ancient. Yet for others, the object's imagery seems too purposeful, too consistent to dismiss entirely. The disc appears to show human reproductive anatomy: the sperm, the ovum, the cell division process, the embryo, in ways that would require knowledge of microscopic biology far beyond what ancient civilizations are thought to have possessed. Some see it as symbolic, perhaps a spiritual representation of fertility or the cycle of life, a theme common across many ancient cultures. But others believe it could be evidence of something far more profound, a message or artifact left behind by an advanced civilization long forgotten, or something not of this world. The precision of the carving adds fuel to these theories. Each symbol is perfectly balanced and geometrically arranged, as if designed with mathematical understanding. The figures are not random. They seem to follow an order, a narrative sequence. For those who have studied the disc up close, it feels less like art and more like instruction, a visual guide, almost anatomical in nature. But if it truly depicts genetic or embryological processes, how could such knowledge exist thousands of years ago? Were these images the result of mystical insight, lost ancient science, or are we simply projecting our modern understanding onto something whose original meaning has long been lost? The stone itself deepens the enigma. Lyddite, sometimes referred to as black slate, was not commonly used for fine carving. It is dense, brittle, and unforgiving. One wrong strike could shatter it. To achieve the disc's level of detail would require not only immense skill, but tools capable of cutting with extreme precision. Yet no such tools have been found in the region from that time period. Adding to the intrigue, the disc is not alone. Several other artifacts, small figurines, tablets, and instruments, were reportedly found alongside it, all carved from the same material, all displaying themes of anatomy and reproduction. Together, they form what has been called the Lega collection, and their existence challenges our understanding of what ancient people could create. Scientists who have examined photographs of the genetic disc remain divided. Some argue that the supposed biological imagery is coincidental, abstract forms mistaken for modern symbols. Others maintain that the similarities to human anatomy are too striking to ignore. For a moment, let's imagine the possibilities. If authentic, could the genetic disc represent remnants of a civilization that understood the microscopic world long before microscopes existed? Could it hint at a forgotten epoch of advanced human knowledge, erased by catastrophe or time? Or could it be evidence of contact, A shared exchange of knowledge between humans and an intelligence beyond Earth? Of course, such ideas lie far beyond the boundaries of conventional archaeology. But the disk endures precisely because it refuses to fit neatly into any single explanation. Like a puzzle missing its final piece, it tempts us with meaning while keeping its truth carefully concealed. To this day, the genetic disk remains in private hands. Few have examined it directly, and fewer still have published peer-reviewed analyses. Its origin, age, and purpose remain officially unverified. But the questions it raises echo across time, stirring both scientists and dreamers alike. Perhaps it is nothing more than an elaborate hoax, a clever modern artifact shaped to evoke ancient wonder. Or perhaps, like the faint outlines of a code written in stone, it is something far older, a fragment of knowledge from an age we have long forgotten. As the light catches its polished surface, the carvings shimmer like tiny constellations, frozen in rock. Whether the work of ancient hands or modern imagination, the genetic disk continues to whisper its silent message, one that speaks not only of where we came from, but perhaps of what we were meant to remember. And so, as we turn the page in our journey through forbidden discoveries, one question lingers in the air. If such knowledge could truly be carved into stone so long ago, what else might be hidden beneath the surface of our own history still waiting to be revealed? In the tranquil expanse of Georgia's Dmanisi region, nestled beside the serene waters of Lake Bashplemi, a discovery was made that would stir the foundations of our understanding of ancient communication. In the autumn of 2021, local fishermen unearthed a small, unassuming basalt tablet from the lake's shoreline. At first glance, it appeared to be just another stone, weathered by time. But upon closer inspection, it revealed something extraordinary. A series of intricate carvings, each symbol meticulously etched into the stone's surface. This artifact, now known as the Bashplemi Lake Tablet, measures approximately 24 by 20 centimeters and is inscribed with 60 characters, 39 of which are unique. The craftsmanship is undeniable. The symbols are not merely scratched but carved with precision, suggesting a level of sophistication uncommon for the period. The method of inscription is equally intriguing. The characters were outlined using a conical drill, followed by smoothing with a rounded tool, techniques that would have required considerable skill and effort. The tablet's material, vesicular basalt, is native to the region, grounding the artifact firmly in its geographical context. Yet, despite its local origin, the script it bears is unlike any known to modern scholars. Initial analyses have drawn parallels between the Bashplemi script and various ancient writing systems, including Proto-Kartvelian, Phoenician, and even scripts from as far afield as India and West Iberia. However, none of these comparisons have yielded a definitive match, leaving the language of the tablet tantalizingly elusive. The dating of the tablet places it in the late Bronze Age or early Iron Age, approximately 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. This period was marked by significant cultural and technological advancements. Yet the existence of a written script in this region at this time is unprecedented. The implications are profound. Could this tablet represent an early form of writing indigenous to the Caucasus? Or does it point to a lost civilization with a sophisticated system of communication? The purpose of the tablet remains a subject of speculation. Some researchers propose it could be a record of military conquests, a list of offerings to deities, or perhaps a codified message meant to convey a specific event or decree. The presence of repeated symbols might suggest numerical values or a form of shorthand, but without a key to the script, these theories remain conjectural. Adding to the mystery is the absence of similar artifacts in the immediate vicinity. While the Dmanisi region is rich in archaeological sites, the discovery of a written tablet is unparalleled. This raises questions about the extent and nature of literacy in ancient Georgia. Was this tablet an anomaly, or does it signify a once thriving tradition of writing that has since been lost to time? The surrounding area offers few clues. Excavations have uncovered evidence of Bronze Age settlements, including stone and obsidian tools, as well as geometric structures that may have served as dwellings or places of worship. Yet, none of these findings provide direct insight into the script or its creators. The lack of context only deepens the enigma. Some scholars have drawn connections between the Bashplemi tablet and the legendary Golden Script of Colchis, a mythical writing system mentioned in Greek mythology. According to these tales, the Colchians possessed a script of divine origin, said to be used by the gods themselves. While this connection is speculative, it underscores the allure of the tablet and the possibilities it presents. As researchers continue to study the Bashplemi Lake tablet, the questions it raises remain unanswered. What was the purpose of this script? Who were its creators? And why has it remained hidden for millennia, only to be revealed in the modern era? The answers may lie within the symbols themselves, waiting to be deciphered. For now, the Bashplemi Lake tablet stands as a silent testament to a forgotten chapter in human history. Its message, though lost to time, beckons us to look closer, to delve deeper, and to consider the possibility that there are still stories from our past waiting to be uncovered. Nestled within the rolling hills of New Hampshire, Lake Winnipesaukee stretches across more than 69 square miles of glistening water, its surface reflecting the sky in shades of sapphire and silver. Surrounding the lake, dense forests whisper with the secrets of centuries past, while small towns and marinas dot the shoreline, offering a peaceful, almost timeless charm. Yet, beneath the tranquil waters and scenic landscapes lies a mystery that has intrigued locals, historians, and adventurers alike. A mystery embodied in a curious, enigmatic object known simply as the Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone. The stone itself is unassuming at first glance. Roughly the size of a large grapefruit, it is smooth and dark, with a surface polished to a muted sheen by centuries of exposure. Its most striking feature, however, is not its size or texture, but its markings, intricate geometric patterns etched deep into the rock, patterns that seem almost too deliberate to have been formed by natural processes. At first, one might think of petroglyphs, the symbolic carvings left behind by ancient cultures across the globe. But the Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone's inscriptions differ in their symmetry, precision, and enigmatic abstraction. Some researchers have noted the presence of symbols resembling celestial charts or mechanical diagrams, prompting questions that defy easy explanation. The discovery of the stone is a story in itself. In the late 19th century, local residents reported unusual findings while dredging parts of the lake for fishing or construction. Among old logs and the usual detritus of a lake bottom, one diver recounted, a dark stone emerged, distinct from the native geology. Initial examinations revealed that the markings were not superficial scratches caused by erosion or human tools. They were deeply embedded in the mineral itself, as if etched with an unknown technology. Early historians dismissed it as a curiosity, attributing the designs to indigenous craftsmanship or the handiwork of a clever prankster. Yet as more careful studies were conducted, questions only multiplied. Geologists examined the stone, confirming its unusual composition. Unlike most rocks native to the area, the stone seemed to contain trace minerals not commonly found in New Hampshire. Its density and internal structure suggested it had been formed under extreme conditions, perhaps millions of years ago. Yet the carvings were undeniably more recent, at least in relative geological terms. How could a rock of such antiquity bear markings that are unmistakably deliberate, intricate, and human-like? Mainstream explanations posit that the stone might have been transported from elsewhere, perhaps by glacial activity or ancient trade networks. but even these scenarios fail to account fully for the precision of the etchings or the apparent intent behind them. The inscriptions themselves have sparked intense debate. Some scholars suggest they might be a form of early symbolic language, a proto-writing that never fully developed or was lost to time. Others, intrigued by the geometric regularity, speculate that the designs may represent astronomical knowledge, a map of the stars, or a tool used for navigation or measurement. Certain patterns resemble what engineers today would recognize as mechanical schematics, leading a handful of researchers to propose a startling possibility: that the stone represents a level of technological sophistication well beyond what we would expect from any known culture in the region at that time. Local folklore adds another layer to the enigma. Legends persist of stones that speak, of objects emerging from the depths that carry messages from forgotten civilizations. Some townspeople recall seeing unusual lights flicker across the lake on nights when the stone was being examined, fueling speculation that the artifact might be more than just an inert rock, that it could be a key to something lost, a relic that defies conventional timelines. While these accounts remain anecdotal and unverifiable, they underscore the way the stone has captured the imagination of those who encounter it. Attempts at scientific analysis have been painstaking and deliberate. Radiocarbon dating cannot directly age the stone, but analysis of nearby sediment layers suggests that it has been submerged for centuries. Detailed imaging using modern laser and photogrammetry techniques has revealed even more hidden complexity. Tiny channels, near imperceptible grooves, and micro-patterns that could be either symbolic or purely decorative. Some researchers argue these fine details are evidence of advanced tool use, possibly even employing methods lost to history. Others caution against overinterpretation, noting that human cognition often seeks patterns even where randomness exists. What is particularly puzzling is the stone's isolation. Unlike other artifacts of ancient culture, there are no nearby ruins, settlements, or burial sites that might contextualize it. It sits alone, in the depths of a serene lake, as if intentionally hidden or perhaps forgotten over millennia. The lack of corroborating evidence frustrates attempts at definitive conclusions, leaving the stone suspended in a liminal space between historical record and mystery. The Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone forces us to confront the limits of our understanding. It embodies the tension between natural history and human creativity, between verifiable facts and speculation. Was it a sacred object, a navigational tool, a symbolic message, or something we cannot yet comprehend? Can its markings be deciphered, or do they belong to a system of knowledge lost entirely to time? As the lake's waters ripple gently across its surface and sunlight dances on the stone's polished contours, one cannot help but wonder what other secrets might lie beneath. For every layer we uncover, there seems to be another waiting, silent, and inscrutable. The mystery of the Winnipesaukee stone remains unresolved, a quiet testament to human curiosity, to the allure of the unexplained, and to the enduring question of what knowledge might still be hidden just beneath the surface of our familiar world. Tucked away in the rare book vault of Yale University's Baynek Library lies an object that has captivated scholars, cryptographers, and curious minds for over a century: the Voynich Manuscript. At first glance, it might appear as a curious relic of the past, a bound volume of fragile yellowed vellum, its edges worn and corners softened by centuries of handling. Yet, as one opens its pages, the ordinary dissolves into something utterly perplexing. The manuscript is a labyrinth of strange, looping glyphs and symbols, arranged in lines that seem to follow linguistic rules, yet resist any known language. Between these writings, elaborate botanical drawings, enigmatic diagrams, and uncanny astronomical charts fill the pages, creating a visual tapestry that is both mesmerizing and disorienting. The origins of the Voynich Manuscript are shrouded in mystery. Radiocarbon dating places its creation in the early 15th century, somewhere between 1404 and 1438, yet the identity of its author remains unknown. Its history before the 17th century is obscure. The trail picks up only when it appears in the possession of various European collectors and alchemists, passing from hand to hand like an artifact too strange to be fully comprehended. In 1912, a rare book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich acquired the manuscript, and it was from him that it gained the name by which it is now universally recognized. But the questions surrounding it far outweigh the story of its discovery. Who wrote it? For what purpose? And most puzzling of all, what does it say? Examining the manuscript, one is immediately struck by the meticulousness of its construction. Every page is carefully inscribed, the text flowing in neat, consistent lines. No corrections or crossed-out passages are visible. The illustrations, too, are precise and detailed, depicting plants that are familiar yet entirely alien, celestial diagrams that seem scientific yet defy known models of the time, and human figures engaged in activities that suggest ritual, observation, or perhaps something more symbolic. Scholars have divided the manuscript into several sections: the botanical, the astronomical, the biological, the pharmaceutical, and the continuous text of inscrutable prose. Each section raises its own set of questions and contradictions, blurring the line between practical knowledge and cryptic art. Attempts to decode the manuscript have spanned decades. During World War II, code breakers and cryptologists, including some working for government intelligence agencies, studied it, hoping it might conceal messages of political or military significance. Mathematicians have analyzed the text for patterns, comparing letter frequencies and sequences to known languages, only to find results that are tantalizing, yet ultimately inconclusive. Linguists have proposed that it could be an invented language, a constructed cipher, or even a form of glossolalia, writing without semantic meaning. Yet the manuscript's internal consistency, its repeated patterns, and the careful alignment of text with illustrations suggest that it is more than meaningless scribble. The drawings themselves deepen the intrigue. Many of the plants appear as hybrids of known species, yet no exact matches exist. Flowers twist into unnatural forms, roots entangle in impossible loops, and leaves seem designed as much to confound as to depict. Astronomical charts hint at a sophisticated understanding of the stars, with depictions of planets, constellations, and circular zodiac diagrams that mirror medieval astrological knowledge. But some include symbols that appear entirely foreign, as though borrowed from an unknown cosmology. The human figures, often bathing in green or blue pools, are enigmatic and stylized, their gestures and arrangements suggesting rituals or processes that elude clear interpretation. Over the years, theories have multiplied like the pages themselves. Some argue the manuscript is a medieval compendium of herbal knowledge, a practical guide for healing or alchemy encoded to protect proprietary knowledge. Others speculate it is an elaborate hoax, a clever ruse designed to baffle the curious and enrich its creator. Fringe interpretations push even further. Could it be evidence of contact with lost civilizations, an esoteric knowledge transmitted from a vanished culture, or even an artifact of a forgotten science? None of these hypotheses can be confirmed, and none can be entirely dismissed. Digital analysis has offered new tools, but few definitive answers. Computer algorithms detect structure, predictability, and repetition in the text, hinting at an underlying system. Yet even with the power of modern cryptography and artificial intelligence, the Voynich manuscript resists translation. Each new theory uncovers only more layers of complexity, as if the manuscript was designed to be a mirror for our own curiosity, reflecting back our assumptions, biases, and the limits of our understanding. The manuscript's very existence challenges us to rethink what we consider knowable. It occupies a space between science and art, history and imagination. It asks questions that do not yield easy answers. Was it meant to communicate or to mystify? Was it a practical manual or a meditation on knowledge itself? Can we ever truly understand a document from a mind whose context is lost to time? As one flips through the pages under the quiet glow of library lights, the Voynich Manuscript remains silent yet commanding. Its loops and spirals, its impossible plants and stars, speak not in words but in possibility. They invite us to ponder the breadth of human creativity and the mysteries that persist at the edges of history. For every attempt at decoding, every scholarly article, and every late-night fascination, the manuscript keeps its secrets. And perhaps that is its enduring power, not simply in what it contains, but in what it refuses to reveal, leaving us to wonder, endlessly, what knowledge might still lie hidden within those yellowed pages. In the quiet plains of southern Idaho, near the small town of Nampa, the landscape stretches wide and open, punctuated by fields, rolling hills, and the occasional river that winds lazily through the terrain. To the casual observer, it seems unremarkable, a typical corner of the American West. Yet, beneath this ordinary facade, a discovery emerged in the late 19th century that would puzzle archaeologists, historians, and enthusiasts for decades. A small, unassuming object now known as the Nampa Figurine. The figurine itself is diminutive, measuring barely over an inch in height, yet its presence is disproportionately striking. Crafted from fired clay, it depicts a humanoid form, remarkably detailed given its tiny scale. The figure's proportions are precise, its limbs and torso carefully shaped, its head distinct, and even subtle features like what appear to be facial contours or indications of clothing carefully rendered. What is immediately captivating is not just its craftsmanship, but its age, or at least what the context of its discovery seems to suggest about its age. In 1889, during the excavation of a well near Nampa, workers hauling sand and gravel from a depth of approximately 300 feet uncovered this small figurine. At the time, this depth was estimated to correspond to geological layers potentially hundreds of thousands of years old, far older than any known human settlement in North America. The initial reaction was a mixture of awe and skepticism. How could such a carefully fashioned human likeness exist in strata so ancient that it appeared to predate any known civilization in the region? Subsequent investigations have attempted to reconcile the figurine with known history. Archaeologists point out that the method of its discovery, removed from deep, compacted gravel and sand, raises questions about stratigraphy and potential disturbances in the earth. Could it have been washed down from more recent layers, or might human error in estimating depth have contributed to the apparent anomaly? These are plausible explanations, yet they do little to entirely dispel the intrigue. The Nampa figurine has persisted in public imagination precisely because it challenges expectations about time, culture, and technological skill. Examining the figurine, one notices a simplicity and sophistication coexisting in tension. The figure is not adorned with jewelry or ornamentation. Its details are understated, yet the proportions and overall form suggest careful observation and deliberate design. Some scholars have compared it to other small figurines found in more conventional archaeological contexts, noting similarities to ancient fertility idols or ritual figures from Old World cultures. But here, in the middle of Idaho, it seems out of place, both geographically and temporally. Could it be evidence of an unknown culture, a visitor from elsewhere, or even a product of independent ingenuity that history has left unrecorded? The Nampa figurine also provokes questions about human capability and migration. If, as some interpretations suggest, the strata in which it was found truly date back hundreds of thousands of years, This would imply human presence far earlier than currently accepted by mainstream archaeology in North America. Homo sapiens are generally understood to have arrived on the continent between 15,000 and 25,000 years ago, long after the layers supposedly containing the figurine were deposited. Could this small object hint at forgotten chapters in human history, evidence of civilizations whose traces have been erased by time and nature? Or is it an anomaly whose explanation lies entirely in the geology of the region, a misplacement rather than a mystery? Beyond its age and origins, the figurine invites contemplation of the people who might have made it. Who shaped this tiny figure by hand, with careful attention and purpose? What did it represent in their world? An idol, a symbolic figure, or simply an object of craft? The lack of associated artifacts or settlement remains complicates our understanding, leaving only the figurine itself as a tantalizing, silent witness to a story that is otherwise lost. Its small size, delicate form, and unexpected discovery create an aura of intimacy and wonder, as if it had been waiting patiently beneath the earth, quietly guarding its secrets. Over the years, the figurine has inspired both rigorous study and imaginative speculation. Skeptics emphasize the possibility of contamination or human error in reporting and recovery, reminding us that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Yet even within the cautious frameworks of archaeology, the figurine continues to stand out as an enigma, an object that refuses to be fully explained. Fringe interpretations, often whispered in books and documentaries, suggest the Nampa figurine could be evidence of lost civilizations, ancient transoceanic contact, or even civilizations whose existence has been erased by cataclysm or time itself. While these theories remain speculative, they underscore the compelling power of the object. It provokes thought, curiosity, and a deep sense of mystery. The figurine also embodies a broader tension in the study of human history, the tension between the tangible and the unexplained. It is real, held today in museums and studied with microscopes and X-rays, yet it refuses to surrender its full story. The more we learn, the more questions emerge about its age, its makers, its purpose, and the context of its deposition. Like a whisper from the distant past, it reminds us that our understanding of human history is incomplete, that beneath the familiar landscape lie traces of events and actions long forgotten. As one contemplates the tiny clay figure, one cannot help but wonder about the world from which it came. Was it a product of a people we will never know, a civilization whose echoes have been lost to time? Or does it represent something even more extraordinary, a challenge to our assumptions about the timeline of human development? The Nampa figurine sits quietly, unassuming yet defiant, inviting us to consider the vastness of history, the mysteries buried beneath our feet, and the knowledge that, even in the most seemingly ordinary landscapes, the past may still hold secrets beyond our imagining. In the hushed, climate-controlled archives of Yale University, among rows of ancient manuscripts and fragile parchments, rests a document that has ignited debate for decades: the Vinland Map. At first glance, it might appear unremarkable, a simple medieval map sketched on yellowed vellum. Yet its contents hint at something extraordinary, a representation of lands beyond the known European world, including a depiction of a region labeled Vinland, which many believe corresponds to areas of North America long before Columbus's voyage in 1492. The map's subtle lines, delicate inkwork, and handwritten notations evoke the meticulous hand of a medieval cartographer, but also the weight of a mystery that continues to challenge historians, geographers, and scientists alike. The Vinland Map first emerged in public awareness in 1957, when it was purchased and brought to the attention of scholars alongside a collection of medieval texts. Its provenance prior to the mid-20th century is uncertain, a gap in its history that only deepens the enigma. Radiocarbon testing of the vellum suggests a creation date in the 15th century, broadly consistent with the medieval period, yet questions linger over the ink and the techniques used to render the map. If genuine, it represents a remarkable pre-Columbian awareness of lands across the Atlantic, evidence that Norse exploration of North America, already hinted at by sagas and archaeological sites such as Lons aux Meadows in Newfoundland, might have been more widely documented than previously understood. Examination of the map reveals a careful, purposeful design. Europe, Africa, and parts of Asia are drawn with the geographical knowledge of the time, and yet at the far western edge, the coastline of Vinland stretches outward, detailed in a way that suggests familiarity. Scholars have debated the map's origins endlessly. Was it created by a European monk drawing upon accounts of Norse voyages? Was it copied from an earlier map, itself lost to history? Or could it be a later fabrication, a clever forgery designed to astonish and baffle collectors and academics alike? Each theory carries weight, yet none has achieved universal acceptance, leaving the map suspended between the realms of documented history and tantalizing speculation. Scientific inquiry into the map has been both revealing and perplexing. Analysis of the vellum confirms its medieval age, yet scrutiny of the ink has yielded conflicting results. Some tests indicate the presence of compounds consistent with 15th century iron gall ink, while others suggest traces of modern chemical additives implying later alterations, or perhaps contamination over centuries of handling. The uneven findings have fueled a decades-long debate among scholars. Is the map an authentic artifact of early cartography, or a sophisticated hoax? Even modern imaging techniques, from ultraviolet light to spectroscopy, have illuminated details previously invisible to the eye, revealing corrections, faint outlines, and subtle line work, yet offering no definitive answers. The content of the map itself provokes further curiosity. The depiction of Vinland is sparse yet deliberate, marked with notations that hint at settlements, rivers, and harbors. Could these represent first-hand knowledge passed down from Norse explorers? If so, how far-reaching was that knowledge? And why is there no corroborating documentation in other medieval sources? Some researchers propose that the map might have been intended as a guide for navigation, while others suggest it was a scholarly exercise, a synthesis of legend and empirical observation. Its precise purpose may remain forever unknown, but the implications are profound. It challenges conventional timelines, offering a glimpse of the world as imagined, or perhaps actually seen, centuries before widespread European exploration. The Vinland Map also invites reflection on human curiosity and the transmission of knowledge. Was it the product of a single visionary, a scribe who sought to capture tales of distant lands, or a collaborative effort among scholars with access to oral and written accounts of the Norse voyages? The meticulous penmanship, careful placement of geographic features, and subtle annotations all suggest intention and thoughtfulness. Yet the absence of accompanying texts or definitive historical references leaves it suspended in ambiguity, a silent testimony to what might have been known and subsequently forgotten. Speculative interpretations have only multiplied over time. Some suggest the map could indicate that Europeans had more extensive contact with the Americas than mainstream history acknowledges. Others propose that it is a symbolic or allegorical work, reflecting medieval curiosity about the edges of the known world rather than an actual geographical record. Fringe theories push even further, imagining lost civilizations, suppressed histories, or advanced cartographic knowledge beyond what we traditionally attribute to the Middle Ages. While these ideas cannot be confirmed, they underscore the map's power to challenge our assumptions and expand the imagination. Beyond its academic and historical intrigue, the Vinland Map evokes a profound sense of wonder. It is a window into a world on the cusp of discovery, where stories of distant lands, daring voyages, and human ingenuity converge in ink and vellum. Its existence compels us to reconsider the boundaries of knowledge, the pathways of exploration, and the fragments of history that remain just out of reach. As one studies its lines, notes its contours, and contemplates the centuries that have passed since it was drawn, the Vinland Map remains an open question. What truths does it conceal? What knowledge has been lost, obscured by time, geography, or the limitations of historical record? And what might still be hidden, waiting to be uncovered in archives, beneath the soil, or in the minds of those who dare to wonder? In its silent, careful rendering of distant shores, the map invites us to keep looking, to keep questioning, and to remain open to the mysteries that history, ever partial and incomplete, leaves for us to discover. In the rolling fields near Aiud, a small town in Romania, the soil has long been tilled by generations of farmers, each layer of earth quietly recording centuries of history. Yet in 1974, amidst a routine excavation, a discovery emerged that would challenge conventional understandings of metallurgy, archaeology, and time itself: the Aiud aluminum wedge. At first glance, it is a simple object, roughly 13 centimeters in length, wedge-shaped with smooth, straight edges tapering to a point. Its metallic sheen, pale silver in color, is unremarkable in isolation. But the circumstances of its discovery and the material from which it is composed render it anything but ordinary. The wedge was reportedly found buried beneath layers of earth and gravel, alongside bones thought to be from prehistoric elephants. Initial measurements suggested that the sediment above it had accumulated over hundreds of thousands of years, implying that the wedge had rested undisturbed for a span of time far preceding any known industrial capability. This claim alone sets the Aiud wedge apart, because aluminum, the metal from which it is made, was not commercially produced until the 19th century, following advancements in smelting techniques. How, then, could such an object exist in a context that appears to predate human aluminum production by millennia? Detailed analysis of the wedge reveals a craftsmanship that is surprisingly deliberate. Its shape is precise, tapering in a way that suggests function rather than accident. The edges are smooth, the surface polished in a manner not typical of raw, naturally occurring metal deposits. Aluminum in its natural state is rarely found in a pure, workable form. It is highly reactive and typically bonded with oxygen and other elements in ore. The Aiud wedge, however, is composed of a nearly pure alloy, raising questions about the technological knowledge required to produce it. Could it have been fashioned with tools and techniques entirely unknown to prehistoric humans, or even ahead of its supposed chronological placement? Mainstream explanations often point to the possibility of contamination, misdating, or misinterpretation of the geological context. Perhaps the wedge had been a modern object that somehow migrated into older layers of sediment through erosion, earth movement, or human activity. Geologists caution that soils and strata are rarely undisturbed over long periods, and that apparent anomalies can result from natural processes. Yet the reports from the excavation describe a wedge embedded deep within compacted layers alongside fossilized remains, suggesting at least the appearance of antiquity. This tension between evidence and interpretation is what has made the Aiud aluminum wedge a subject of fascination and controversy within both scientific and fringe circles. Speculation regarding the wedge's origin is varied and imaginative. Some suggest it may have been part of an unknown civilization with metallurgical knowledge lost to history, a society capable of manipulating metals in ways we do not yet understand. Others hypothesize that it could represent a technological artifact from a more recent time, displaced through natural or human means and mistakenly associated with prehistoric layers. Less conventional theories propose even stranger possibilities. Could the wedge be evidence of advanced knowledge from an unknown source, or a remnant of technology far beyond what we currently recognize as ancient capability? While these ideas remain speculative, they illustrate the wedge's power to provoke thought and challenge assumptions about human history. The material itself adds another layer of intrigue. Aluminum, though common in today's world, was considered more precious than gold prior to the late 1800s due to the difficulty of extracting it from ore. Its presence in a small wedge-shaped artifact, seemingly fashioned with intent, evokes questions about the people or forces that might have produced it. Was it a tool, a symbolic object, or a fragment of something larger, now lost to time? The lack of associated artifacts or records further deepens the mystery, leaving the wedge as a solitary enigma, quietly defying classification. Scientific study of the wedge has been limited but revealing. Metallurgical analysis confirms the composition of aluminum with trace amounts of other elements. Microscopic examination of the surface suggests mechanical shaping, perhaps with tools capable of smoothing and tapering the material. Yet the exact techniques remain unknown. How could such precision have been achieved without a historical context for aluminum production? Is it possible that this small wedge represents an isolated instance of advanced craftsmanship lost to history? Or could it be the product of natural processes that we have yet to fully understand? The Aiud aluminum wedge also serves as a reflection on the limits of human knowledge. It challenges assumptions about technological progression and the linearity of history. It asks us to consider the possibility of knowledge that existed long before its supposed time, or of processes that leave no other trace in the archaeological record. Its discovery reminds us that even in the most familiar landscapes, and within layers of earth we think we understand, the past may hold artifacts that resist easy explanation. As one contemplates the wedge, small yet enigmatic, questions abound. Who made it, and for what purpose? How did it come to rest among the fossilized remains of prehistoric creatures? Does it represent a glimpse of lost knowledge or an anomaly whose story we may never fully uncover? The Aiud aluminum wedge remains silent, yet its presence resonates across disciplines, a quiet challenge to our understanding of history, technology, and the mysteries buried beneath our feet. In its simplicity, it invites reflection, curiosity, and the recognition that the past may still harbor secrets capable of reshaping our perception of human achievement. On the banks of the Nile, the Temple of Hathor at Dendera rises as a testament to ancient Egyptian devotion and architectural mastery. Its grand columns and elaborately painted walls tell stories of gods, pharaohs, and rituals that have endured for millennia. Yet, amidst these familiar symbols of divine reverence, lies a particular relief that has captivated modern observers for decades. A depiction that is at once enigmatic and compelling, commonly referred to as the Dendera light relief. The relief itself is carved into the stone ceiling of one of the temple's chambers, part of a series of intricate scenes that adorn the sacred space. It portrays a series of unusual objects, elongated, bulb-like forms, sometimes connected to what appear to be serpentine filaments or cables, extending toward a larger cylindrical element held by divine figures. To the casual eye, the scene may resemble the familiar iconography of Egyptian cosmology, yet its shape and composition have prompted alternative interpretations that challenge conventional explanations. Some observers have likened the images to representations of electrical lighting, imagining an ancient understanding of technology that would seem impossibly advanced for the time. Historically, the relief is understood within the context of Egyptian religious symbolism. Scholars note that the temple was dedicated to Hathor, goddess of fertility, music, and the sky, and that many of its carvings are allegorical, depicting the eternal struggle between order and chaos, life and death, the gods and humanity. The light bulb shapes, mainstream interpretations suggest, may in fact represent lotus flowers, intertwined serpents symbolizing divine energy, or other traditional motifs stylized for ceremonial purposes. Yet, the precise form, an elongated bulb, a cable-like filament, and a cylindrical container, has sparked debate because it diverges from more commonly recognized Egyptian depictions. The relief was first brought to widespread attention in the 20th century when photographs circulated among researchers and enthusiasts. Some saw in the carvings a startling similarity to modern electrical devices, a glass bulb with a filament inside, connected to a power source, emitting light into the surrounding chamber. Could the ancient Egyptians have possessed knowledge of technology that, as far as history records, would not be developed until millennia later? Or is this resemblance a product of human imagination, seeing modern concepts mirrored in ancient symbols that had entirely different meanings? Archaeologists caution that Egyptian reliefs are highly symbolic and often encode complex cosmological, religious, or ritualistic knowledge. The elongated shapes could represent lotus stalks, which were associated with creation and rebirth, while the coiled serpents might symbolize divine energy or protective forces. The cylindrical containers may be a stylized representation of the womb of the goddess, a vessel of life, or a receptacle of cosmic power. In this light, the scene can be read entirely within the framework of spiritual iconography, without implying any knowledge of electricity or mechanical technology. Yet, the persistence of the alternative interpretation cannot be dismissed, because the visual resemblance is undeniably striking. Scholars and enthusiasts have noted that if one isolates the forms from their symbolic context, they bear a geometric similarity to bulbs, wires, and capacitors. This observation raises questions about the nature of human perception and the universality of certain shapes. Are we projecting modern understanding onto ancient art, or is there a possibility that knowledge was encoded in ways that we do not yet fully comprehend? The relief's ambiguity leaves the door open to interpretation, inviting viewers to consider possibilities beyond conventional frameworks. The Dendera light relief also speaks to the broader question of lost or hidden knowledge. Ancient Egypt is renowned for its technological and architectural achievements, the precise alignment of pyramids, the engineering of massive stone monuments, the mastery of irrigation and metallurgy. Could it be possible that certain symbolic depictions were also representations of advanced scientific or technological understanding, deliberately encoded to preserve sacred knowledge? Or do these images serve purely metaphysical purposes, guiding rituals and cosmological beliefs rather than practical applications? The debate itself reflects a human fascination with bridging the gap between ancient wisdom and modern science. In the arid plains of southern Mesopotamia, where the rivers of the Tigris and Euphrates carve life-giving paths through dusty earth, archaeologists have uncovered remnants of one of the world's earliest civilizations, the Ubaid culture. Flourishing around 5000 to 4000 BCE, the Ubaid people are known for their sophisticated pottery, early architectural forms, and complex social organization. Yet amidst the expected artifacts of daily life, bowls, tools, and simple votive figurines, there exists a series of small, enigmatic sculptures that defy easy explanation: the Ubaid lizard figurines. The figurines themselves are diminutive, usually only a few centimeters long, yet they command attention through their peculiar form and uncanny resemblance to creatures we recognize today. Each is crafted from clay, fired to a reddish-brown hue, and modeled with surprising detail. Limbs, tails, and spiny ridges are rendered with care, and some figurines appear to have articulated features, such as movable jaws or jointed limbs, suggesting an understanding of anatomy and mechanics that is remarkable for their age. Yet these are not depictions of ordinary animals familiar to Mesopotamia. They resemble lizard-like or reptilian creatures, some almost fantastical in their proportions, combining traits of multiple species. The discovery of these figurines in Ubaid settlement layers raises immediate questions. Many were found in what appear to be domestic or ritual contexts, alongside standard pottery and household tools, suggesting they held significance within daily life or ceremonial practice. Scholars have debated their purpose for decades. Were they simple toys or charms, intended to amuse or protect children? Could they have served as symbolic talismans, perhaps representing deities, spirits, or mythological beings? Or do they point to something more extraordinary, evidence of a culture observing creatures that do not correspond to known fauna, or imagining beings beyond their ordinary experience? From a mainstream archaeological perspective, the figurines are often interpreted as symbolic objects, possibly connected to fertility, protection, or spiritual belief systems. The Ubaid culture was deeply religious, with ritual spaces and offerings, and small animal figurines were common throughout the Near East in this period. Lizard-like creatures, in particular, may have had symbolic significance, associated with regeneration, adaptability, or nocturnal mystery. The careful craftsmanship of these figurines suggests intentionality and reverence, yet within conventional frameworks, they are considered stylized representations rather than literal depictions of unknown beings. However, the figurines also invite alternative interpretations, precisely because of their unusual characteristics. Some have noted that the anatomy of certain figures appears improbably precise, as if based on observation rather than imagination. The tails, limbs, and scales are rendered in ways that seem anatomically consistent with living reptiles, yet none of the local species of the time perfectly match the forms depicted. This has led to speculation that the Ubaid people may have had contact with unknown creatures, real or mythical, or that these representations are rooted in cultural memory, perhaps of species no longer extant or yet to be discovered. Could these small figures preserve a faint echo of beings that existed alongside humanity thousands of years ago, now lost to time? Beyond their form, the context of discovery adds to the mystery. Many figurines were found buried within foundations or ritual deposits, suggesting they were intentionally placed rather than casually discarded. Some were broken, while others appear to have been fired multiple times, possibly indicating repair, modification, or ritual reactivation. The meticulous attention to these objects, juxtaposed with their enigmatic subject matter, has fueled speculation that the Ubaid people were not merely observing their environment, they were encoding knowledge, myth, or observation into these figurines in a manner we struggle to fully interpret. Scientific analysis of the clay and firing techniques confirms the figurines' authenticity and antiquity, yet provides little insight into the motivation behind their creation. Their diminutive size belies the complexity of their design, and modern imaging reveals intricate details invisible to the naked eye, such as subtle texturing on scales or the articulation of limbs. Each figurine is a miniature study in form and motion, crafted with a precision that suggests familiarity and possibly reverence. The question remains, were these objects purely symbolic, or could they reflect something more, perhaps a proto-scientific understanding of anatomy, ecology, or even creatures outside the ordinary record of life? In the arid plains of southern Mesopotamia, where the rivers of the Tigris and Euphrates carve life-giving paths through dusty earth, archaeologists have uncovered remnants of one of the world's earliest civilizations, the Ubaid culture. Flourishing around 5000 to 4000 BCE, the Ubaid people are known for their sophisticated pottery, early architectural forms, and complex social organization. Yet, amidst the expected artifacts of daily life, bowls, tools, and simple votive figurines, there exists a series of small enigmatic sculptures that defy easy explanation. The Ubaid lizard figurines, The figurines themselves are diminutive, usually only a few centimeters long, yet they command attention through their peculiar form and uncanny resemblance to creatures we recognize today. Each is crafted from clay, fired to a reddish-brown hue, and modeled with surprising detail. Limbs, tails, and spiny ridges are rendered with care, and some figurines appear to have articulated features, such as movable jaws or jointed limbs, suggesting an understanding of anatomy and mechanics that is remarkable for their age. Yet these are not depictions of ordinary animals familiar to Mesopotamia. They resemble lizard-like or reptilian creatures, some almost fantastical in their proportions, combining traits of multiple species. The discovery of these figurines in Ubaid settlement layers raises immediate questions. Many were found in what appear to be domestic or ritual contexts, alongside standard pottery and household tools, suggesting they held significance within daily life or ceremonial practice. Scholars have debated their purpose for decades. Were they simple toys or charms, intended to amuse or protect children? Could they have served as symbolic talismans, perhaps representing deities, spirits, or mythological beings? Or do they point to something more extraordinary, evidence of a culture observing creatures that do not correspond to known fauna or imagining beings beyond their ordinary experience? From a mainstream archaeological perspective, the figurines are often interpreted as symbolic objects, possibly connected to fertility, protection, or spiritual belief systems. The Ubaid culture was deeply religious, with ritual spaces and offerings, and small animal figurines were common throughout the Near East in this period. Lizard-like creatures, in particular, may have had symbolic significance associated with regeneration, adaptability, or nocturnal mystery. The careful craftsmanship of these figurines suggests intentionality and reverence, yet within conventional frameworks, they are considered stylized representations rather than literal depictions of unknown beings. However, the figurines also invite alternative interpretations, precisely because of their unusual characteristics. Some have noted that the anatomy of certain figures appears improbably precise, as if based on observation rather than imagination. The tails, limbs, and scales are rendered in ways that seem anatomically consistent with living reptiles, yet none of the local species of the time perfectly match the forms depicted. This has led to speculation that the Ubaid people may have had contact with unknown creatures, real or mythical, or that these representations are rooted in cultural memory, perhaps of species no longer extant or yet to be discovered. Could these small figures preserve a faint echo of beings that existed alongside humanity thousands of years ago, now lost to time? Beyond their form, the context of discovery adds to the mystery. Many figurines were found buried within foundations or ritual deposits, suggesting they were intentionally placed rather than casually discarded. Some were broken, while others appear to have been fired multiple times, possibly indicating repair, modification, or ritual reactivation. The meticulous attention to these objects, juxtaposed with their enigmatic subject matter, has fueled speculation that the Ubaid people were not merely observing their environment. They were encoding knowledge, myth, or observation into these figurines in a manner we struggle to fully interpret. Scientific analysis of the clay and firing techniques confirms the figurines' authenticity and antiquity, yet provides little insight into the motivation behind their creation. Their diminutive size belies the complexity of their design, and modern imaging reveals intricate details invisible to the naked eye, such as subtle texturing on scales or the articulation of limbs. Each figurine is a miniature study in form and motion, crafted with a precision that suggests familiarity and possibly reverence. The question remains, were these objects purely symbolic, or could they reflect something more, perhaps a proto-scientific understanding of anatomy, ecology, or even creatures outside the ordinary record of life? The Ubaid lizard figurines thus exist at the boundary between the known and the unknowable. They are tangible archaeological artifacts, yet they resist complete interpretation. Their strange forms, careful craftsmanship, and enigmatic context invite us to reconsider the capabilities, imagination, and observations of one of the world's earliest civilizations. Are we seeing representations of myth or of creatures that once walked the earth unnoticed? Were these objects educational, religious, or something else entirely? As we study these small yet compelling artifacts, they seem to gaze back at us, bridging millennia with silent intent. The Ubaid lizard figurines remind us that the past is not always linear, that ancient societies may have perceived the world in ways we can scarcely imagine, and that history often preserves mysteries more than answers. They invite reflection, curiosity, and wonder. What knowledge, observation, or myth did these small figures encode? And how many secrets from the dawn of civilization remain buried, waiting to challenge our understanding of humanity and the natural world? Hidden on the side of a low mesa near Los Lunas, New Mexico, a massive boulder rises from the arid desert landscape, its surface weathered by centuries of sun, wind, and sand. On this stone, etched deeply into the darkened rock, are a series of inscriptions that have captured the attention of scholars, linguists, and curious travelers alike. The Los Lunas Decalogue stone. The carvings, composed of angular characters resembling ancient Hebrew, appear to mirror the Ten Commandments, presenting a text that, at first glance, seems almost impossibly out of place in the heart of North America. The stone measures roughly 2 meters across, its surface pitted and cracked with age, yet the inscriptions remain strikingly legible. Letters are carefully incised, following straight lines that suggest deliberate intent and meticulous craftsmanship. What is particularly intriguing is the scale of the engraving. It is not a casual or hidden graffiti, but a monumental act, one that would have required significant effort and time. The alignment, depth, and form of the letters hint at someone deeply familiar with the script and the text they were conveying, raising the immediate question, who and when inscribed this message here? Historical context offers tantalizing yet frustratingly incomplete guidance. The text is unmistakably Hebrew in origin, and the content closely parallels the Decalogue as recorded in the Old Testament. This suggests knowledge of Jewish scripture and script at a level precise enough to replicate the commandments in an ancient form. Yet, conventional history places the arrival of Hebrew-speaking peoples far from this region of North America. European contact with the Americas did not begin until the late 15th century, and there is no verified record of Jewish explorers or settlers arriving centuries before. How then could such a text appear etched into a stone in the middle of the desert, seemingly predating known migrations? Mainstream archaeological interpretations often emphasize caution. Some suggest the stone may be a modern or early modern forgery, created by someone familiar with biblical texts who sought to leave a mark or craft a mystery. Others posit that the inscriptions could have been made within the last few centuries, perhaps by settlers, explorers, or even travelers seeking to impress or mislead observers. Geological studies of the boulder's surface and the weathering of the inscriptions yield conflicting clues. While the stone itself is ancient, dating natural erosion with precision is notoriously difficult, leaving open the possibility that the carvings are older or younger than they appear. The Los Lunas Decalogue stone is enigmatic not just for its presence, but for its content and craftsmanship. The text is written in a form of Paleo-Hebrew, an archaic script used by ancient Israelites and largely replaced by square Aramaic letters by the first millennium BCE. This specificity has fueled speculation that if the carving is genuine and pre-Columbian, it would imply knowledge of a script and language that predates European exploration of the Americas by millennia. Could travelers from the ancient Near East have crossed the Atlantic long before the Vikings, leaving behind a monument now obscured by time and sand? Or is the Paleo-Hebrew script simply the choice of a later copyist seeking to evoke antiquity? The inscription's location adds another layer of intrigue. Nestled on the flat face of a solitary mesa, the stone is visible yet isolated, accessible but not obvious. The choice of site suggests intentionality, perhaps a desire for permanence, or a belief that the message was meant to endure, silently observing the passing centuries. The act of carving the Ten Commandments into stone is itself symbolic, echoing the biblical narrative in which Moses received the commandments on Mount Sinai. Was the Los Lunas engraving meant as a sacred act, a declaration of faith, or a cryptic message intended for future generations? Fringe theories abound, though none can be conclusively proven. Some speculate that the stone is evidence of early transoceanic contact by Hebrew travelers, a suggestion that challenges prevailing narratives of human migration and exploration. Others argue for esoteric interpretations, imagining secret knowledge transmitted across continents, or even lost histories of civilizations with sophisticated navigation and religious awareness. While these ideas remain speculative, they underscore the enduring fascination with the stone. It is an artifact that refuses to be fully explained, a puzzle bridging language, religion, and geography. Scientific study has been meticulous yet inconclusive. Detailed photographs, rubbings, and digital analyses reveal the precision of the carving, the depth of each letter, and the subtle variations in line width that hint at human handwork rather than natural erosion. Yet the exact age remains uncertain, as factors like exposure to weather, mineral composition, and local climate complicate attempts at definitive dating. Each inquiry deepens the mystery, confirming the authenticity of the inscription as human-made, while leaving the question of origin and purpose tantalizingly open. The Los Lunas Decalogue. Stone stands as a testament to human curiosity and the persistence of mystery. It is a silent observer of centuries, its etched message enduring under the harsh desert sun. Was it the work of a faithful traveler, a learned scholar, or a mysterious visitor from a distant time and place? Or is it a later creation designed to provoke wonder, reflection, and debate? The stone does not answer. It only invites contemplation. As one gazes upon its weathered face, tracing the lines of ancient characters, one is reminded that history is rarely straightforward. The Los Lunas Decalogue. Stone challenges assumptions, urging us to consider the boundaries of exploration, the movement of peoples, and the transmission of knowledge across time and space. It remains, ultimately, a mystery, a tangible link to a past that is only partially known, a whisper from centuries past asking us to wonder, who inscribed this stone and what truths remain hidden, waiting to be discovered? Deep within the humid jungles of Central America, amid the remnants of once great civilizations, there exists a series of objects that have fascinated collectors, scholars, and explorers for over a century: the crystal skulls. At first glance, these artifacts are immediately arresting. Human skulls carved entirely from clear or milky quartz, smooth and flawless, yet carved with astonishing detail. The eyes, jawlines, and cranial contours are precise, almost lifelike, evoking a quiet, unsettling presence. They seem simultaneously ancient and otherworldly, as though the material itself holds secrets beyond human comprehension. The most famous of these skulls, such as the Mitchell-Hedges skull, have been at the center of debate since their discovery. Reports suggest it was found in the 1920s during an excavation of a Mayan or pre-Columbian site, though the details remain shrouded in conflicting accounts and a lack of contemporary documentation. Other skulls housed in museums and private collections have been traced to locations across Mexico, Guatemala, and Belize. Their craftsmanship, regardless of provenance, is undeniable. Quartz is an extraordinarily hard material, requiring tools and techniques that were thought to be unavailable to ancient peoples. How were these delicate, lifelike forms carved without fracturing the crystal? Scientific analysis provides both insight and intrigue. Modern microscopy reveals that the skulls were shaped and polished with methods inconsistent with pre-Columbian tool technologies. Fine striations, sometimes imperceptible to the naked eye, suggest rotary tools or abrasives that only became widely available in the last few centuries. Yet despite these findings, questions remain. Were these skulls created in recent times and mistakenly attributed to ancient cultures, or were they the product of unknown techniques lost to history? The mystery deepens when one considers the precision required to create such flawless symmetry in an unforgiving material. Historically, skull imagery has long held symbolic significance in Mesoamerican cultures. The Aztecs, Maya, and other civilizations viewed the skull as a symbol of death, rebirth, and the cycle of life. Skulls appear in temple carvings, ritual objects, and art, often serving as conduits to the spiritual world. Could the crystal skulls have functioned similarly, perhaps as sacred objects used in rituals, divination, or spiritual ceremonies? Or does their material, perfectly clear quartz, suggest a purpose beyond the purely symbolic, possibly as objects intended to harness or amplify some unknown energy? Speculative theories have flourished in the modern imagination. Some enthusiasts argue that the skulls possess metaphysical properties, claiming they can store information, focus energy, or even communicate across time and space. Others suggest that their precise creation might indicate contact with advanced civilizations, lost technologies, or even extraterrestrial influence. While these ideas cannot be substantiated through scientific evidence, they persist because the skulls themselves evoke a sense of wonder that transcends ordinary explanation. The human brain is drawn to faces, to symmetry, and to the suggestion of consciousness. The lifelike precision of these crystal forms amplifies that response, lending the skulls an almost uncanny aura. Mainstream archaeology approaches the skulls with caution. The lack of verifiable excavation records, inconsistent provenance, and evidence of modern carving techniques lead many experts to classify them as relatively recent creations inspired by indigenous motifs. Yet even this explanation does not fully account for the cultural resonance, the fascination they inspire, and the questions they raise about human creativity. How is it that a single form, perfectly proportioned, carved from one of the hardest natural minerals, can evoke both reverence and unease? What drives the enduring obsession with these objects across continents and decades? Beyond the technical aspects, the crystal skulls embody a profound connection to human curiosity and the unknown. They bridge science, history, and imagination, forcing us to confront the limits of what we can know. Each skull feels deliberate, imbued with intent, and yet the context of that intent remains elusive. Were they created to inspire awe, to honor the dead, or to capture knowledge in a tangible form? Do they represent lost skills, symbolic insight, or an artistic expression that transcends time? The answers remain obscured by centuries of mystery and human interpretation. The skull's allure is heightened by their silent, enigmatic presence. Displayed under glass in museums or resting in private collections, they appear almost alive, catching the light in subtle ways that emphasize their form and translucence. Visitors report an unsettling sense of being watched, a sensation that seems to emanate from the skulls themselves. Whether this is the product of imagination or some deeper, intangible property of the objects, it speaks to the power of craftsmanship and the human mind's response to symmetry, face-like forms, and perfection. Ultimately, The crystal skulls exist at the intersection of archaeology, art, and mystery. They remind us that history is rarely neat, that objects can challenge our understanding of time, technology, and human ingenuity. They provoke questions about what was possible in the past, what knowledge may have been lost, and how humans across cultures have sought to understand life, death, and the unknown. As one gazes into the smooth eye sockets of a crystal skull, tracing the delicate contours of its form, one is left with a lingering question. Who created these skulls, and for what purpose? Are they relics of ancient civilizations, products of modern skill, or something in between, blurring the line between history and myth? The crystal skulls do not answer. They only endure, silent and perfect, inviting us to wonder what truths lie hidden within their translucent depths, and what mysteries of human history remain waiting to be uncovered. In the quiet streets of Dorchester, Massachusetts, near the bustling heart of a city that has grown over centuries, an unassuming artifact quietly rests in the shelves of a local historical collection, a small iron pot whose existence has perplexed archaeologists and historians alike. Known as the Dorchester Pot, this object is modest in size, roughly 6 inches in diameter, and unremarkable to the casual observer. Yet its discovery, buried deep beneath layers of glacial debris, has sparked questions that challenge our understanding of history and human technology in North America. The pot was reportedly unearthed in 1851 by workers excavating gravel from the banks of a stream. Encased within solid clay and sand, alongside stones and glacial deposits, it was found at a depth of several meters, in a stratum believed to predate the presence of Europeans on the continent. The iron of which it is composed is solid and finely worked, featuring a simple yet precise construction with a slight lip around its rim. On one hand, it appears to be a utilitarian object, a vessel perhaps for cooking or storage, but the circumstances of its burial suggest something far more enigmatic. How could a forged iron pot, with techniques associated with the 19th century, have come to rest beneath glacial deposits thought to be thousands of years old? Mainstream archaeology often approaches the Dorchester Pot with skepticism, proposing that it is either a modern object that migrated downward through natural processes, or that its depth was misrecorded by those who discovered it. Soil movement, erosion, and shifting deposits over centuries can create the illusion of extreme antiquity, and misinterpretation of context has often led to false, out-of-place artifacts. Yet, even accounting for these factors, the pot's discovery remains puzzling, especially when considered alongside other anomalous finds that appear in the stratigraphic record of North America and Europe. Objects that seem far older than their material or craftsmanship would suggest. The craftsmanship of the pot itself is unremarkable to modern eyes, yet it is its material that commands attention. Iron is a difficult metal to work without controlled heating and forging techniques. In North America, widespread iron smelting and tool making did not occur until the arrival of European settlers. Could the Dorchester Pot represent an isolated experiment in metallurgy by earlier cultures, or is it evidence of later deposition, its context misunderstood or lost to time? Scientific analyses, where available, confirm the composition as workable iron, but provide no definitive clues about the forge or smith who produced it, leaving its origin tantalizingly uncertain. Speculative interpretations abound. Some suggest the Dorchester Pot may hint at lost technologies or forgotten knowledge, relics of a human presence far older than conventional history allows. Others propose that it could be evidence of pre-Columbian contact with civilizations capable of working iron, a tantalizing possibility that, if true, would fundamentally reshape our understanding of transcontinental interactions and metallurgical development. Less orthodox theories imagine even stranger scenarios, from advanced civilizations wiped from history to artifacts deposited by unknown forces. While these ideas cannot be verified, they reflect the enduring allure of the Dorchester Pot. It is an object that seems to whisper of hidden chapters in human history, inviting curiosity without offering definitive answers. The pot's simplicity belies its impact on the imagination. Unlike ornate or ceremonial artifacts, it is utilitarian, anonymous, yet it commands attention because of its incongruous context. It is a reminder that history is not always neat, that the accumulation of human activity can leave objects in places and times we struggle to reconcile. The Dorchester Pot challenges assumptions about the linear progression of technology and the certainty of archaeological context. How many other objects lie buried, forgotten, or misinterpreted, waiting to complicate our understanding of human achievement? Archaeological study of the Dorchester Pot is necessarily cautious. Without precise records of its original deposition, and with the passage of over a century and a half since its discovery, the ability to contextualize the object is limited. Yet this very limitation contributes to its mystique. Every scratch on its surface, every imperfection in the metal, every layer of sediment once surrounding it, becomes a clue, a puzzle piece in a story that may never be fully reconstructed. Its presence evokes questions about human innovation, migration, and the enduring enigma of objects that do not fit neatly into accepted historical frameworks. The Dorchester Pot stands as a quiet testament to the gaps in our knowledge and the mysteries that persist in the archaeological record. It invites reflection on what we take for granted about the past, the assumptions we make about technological progression, and the narratives we construct to explain the world. Was it made by early settlers, indigenous peoples experimenting with metal, or some other entirely unknown source? Did it serve a practical function, a ritualistic purpose, or something else entirely, now lost to history? As one contemplates the unadorned iron vessel, it is impossible not to wonder about the hands that shaped it, the circumstances of its burial, and the centuries it has lain beneath layers of earth, unnoticed by all but the keenest observers. The Dorchester Pot remains silent. Yet, in its silence, it speaks volumes about the fragility of knowledge and the enduring mystery of human history. It asks us to pause, to question, and to consider that perhaps the past is far richer and stranger than we have yet imagined. What other secrets, like this simple iron pot, remain hidden beneath the soil, waiting to challenge our understanding of what is possible? Nestled among the stacks of a European library, the Codex Rohonczi presents itself as an object of quiet, almost hypnotic mystery. At first glance, it resembles any number of medieval manuscripts, pages bound together, yellowed with age, ink faded but legible to the patient eye. Yet a closer inspection reveals that the codex is anything but ordinary. Each page is filled with an intricate script, a series of symbols and characters that appear deliberately ordered, yet remain entirely indecipherable. Accompanying these enigmatic signs are illustrations of human figures, battle scenes, religious rituals, and architectural forms, all rendered with careful attention to detail. The manuscript is at once familiar and alien, a text that seems to speak in a language that no modern scholar has yet comprehended. The Codex first entered recorded history in the early 19th century, when it surfaced in the Hungarian town of Rohonczi. Its provenance prior to this point is largely unknown, adding layers of intrigue to an already confounding object. The manuscript comprises over 400 pages, each densely inscribed, suggesting a volume of knowledge far greater than a mere notebook or journal. The symbols themselves bear no resemblance to known European scripts, nor do they appear to correspond to any ancient writing systems currently recognized by linguists. Attempts to decipher the Codex Rohonczi have spanned decades, attracting cryptographers, historians, and enthusiasts alike, yet it continues to defy analysis, standing as one of the most baffling enigmas in the study of historical manuscripts. Mainstream scholarly interpretations often emphasize caution. Many experts propose that the text may be a hoax or an elaborate invention, created to impress, mystify, or perhaps conceal a personal message. Others suggest that it could be a private code, a cipher used by an individual or group to encode information accessible only to a select few. Despite the lack of a definitive reading, it is clear that the manuscript was executed with intention and skill. The uniformity of the symbols, the consistency of spacing, and the careful placement of illustrations indicate a deliberate structure, hinting at an underlying system or logic that has yet to be understood. The illustrations provide another layer of fascination. They depict scenes that range from the mundane to the ceremonial, warriors brandishing swords, figures engaged in what appear to be religious rituals, and architectural forms that resemble medieval fortifications. Some images evoke familiar medieval iconography, while others are almost surreal, combining elements of human, animal, and symbolic forms in ways that challenge conventional interpretation. Could these illustrations hold the key to understanding the text, offering visual clues to a lost language or forgotten culture? Or are they symbolic, intended to complement a code whose meaning was never meant to be revealed to outsiders? Over the years, cryptographers have approached the Codex Rohonczi with modern techniques, applying frequency analysis, pattern recognition, and statistical modeling to uncover linguistic structures. These efforts have yielded tantalizing hints of regularity, suggesting that the manuscript is not random scribbling, but a constructed system of communication. Yet every proposed decipherment remains tentative, unverified, and subject to debate. Some researchers see echoes of known languages. Others detect patterns that seem purely artificial. The more the codex is studied, the more it resists comprehension, like a lock that turns but never opens. Speculative theories abound, and while they cannot be confirmed, they reveal the breadth of human curiosity. Some posit that the Codex Rohonczi may be a relic of a lost civilization, preserving a language or knowledge erased from history. Others suggest connections to secret societies, hidden knowledge, or esoteric traditions, a manuscript intentionally encoded to survive as a puzzle across centuries. Less conventional ideas even imagine extraterrestrial or otherworldly inspiration, pointing to the text's inscrutability and the unusual imagery. While these interpretations remain speculative, they underscore the enduring fascination with the Codex. It is an object that refuses to yield its secrets, compelling observers to think beyond conventional frameworks. The materiality of the manuscript adds to its allure. The pages are constructed from durable parchment, and the ink has survived remarkably well despite the passage of time, hinting at meticulous preservation or superior craftsmanship. The meticulous order of symbols, repeated patterns, and structured layouts suggest intellectual rigor and an organized thought process. Whoever created the Codex Rohonczi invested time, energy, and knowledge into a work that was meant to endure, yet for what purpose and to whom it was addressed remains unknown. Ultimately, the Codex Rohonczi serves as a reminder of the limits of human knowledge and the persistence of mystery in history. It is tangible, measurable, and real, yet its meaning lies just beyond the grasp of contemporary understanding. Each symbol, each illustration is a whisper from a past that refuses to be fully deciphered, a message encoded across centuries that challenges scholars to think in new ways about language, culture, and human ingenuity. As one gazes upon its intricate pages, the mind is drawn into contemplation. Who wrote this manuscript, and why? Was it a personal creation, a record of a forgotten language, or a deliberate puzzle meant to endure time and confound future generations? The Codex Rohonczi remains silent, yet its very existence demands attention, urging us to consider that history is rarely straightforward, and that secrets may lie hidden in plain sight. What knowledge, long lost or deliberately concealed, might still await discovery in these mysterious pages? In the dimly lit corridors of the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, among relics of pharaohs and millennia-old artifacts, lies a small object that has quietly perplexed scholars since its discovery: the Tri-Lobed Disk of Sabu. Unlike the towering statues or ornately carved sarcophagi that dominate the collection, this object is deceptively simple at first glance: an unassuming disk of schist, roughly 61 centimeters in diameter, with 3 symmetrical lobes radiating from a central hub. Its shape is unlike any other artifact known from ancient Egypt, and yet it was uncovered in the famed tomb of Sabu, an official of Egypt's first dynasty, dating back over 5,000 years. The disk itself is a marvel of precision and craftsmanship. Each lobe is perfectly rounded, the central axis carefully formed, and the stone smoothed to an almost unnatural uniformity. Its edges are finely worked, and grooves along the surface suggest that it was not merely decorative. Archaeologists have noted that the disk's design bears little resemblance to typical funerary or ceremonial objects from this period. Pottery, stone tools, and ornamental jewelry were common in tombs, yet this peculiar tri-lobed form seems to defy categorization. What purpose could such a uniquely engineered object have served in a society so meticulously structured as ancient Egypt? Mainstream interpretations tend toward practicality or symbolic meaning. Some scholars suggest the disk was a ritual object, perhaps linked to religious ceremonies or funerary rites, a symbolic representation of the cosmos, life cycles, or sacred geometry. Others propose it may have been an experimental tool, possibly used in metallurgy, woodworking, or textiles, though no direct evidence supports such uses. The difficulty lies in the disk's material. Schist is brittle, and the intricacy of the lobes would make any functional application exceedingly delicate, raising questions about its intended purpose. What draws attention, however, is the disk's geometric sophistication. The 3 lobes are perfectly proportioned, their angles and symmetry suggesting knowledge of principles that are strikingly modern in their precision. Some researchers have noted that the disk could function as a mechanical component, potentially fitting into a larger apparatus, rotating or transmitting force in ways reminiscent of pulleys or gears. Such an idea is controversial, for it implies a level of technological understanding that conventional Egyptology does not attribute to the first dynasty. Could the disk represent an early experiment in engineering, lost to history, or is this a projection of modern interpretation onto an ancient, symbolic artifact? Beyond its technical aspects, the disk evokes deeper questions about the minds and intentions of its creators. Sabu was a high-ranking official, and tombs of the elite often contained objects chosen to ensure power, protection, and passage into the afterlife. Did the disk serve a purely spiritual role, perhaps as a talisman of protection or a vessel of metaphysical significance? Or did it embody practical knowledge, encoded in stone for reasons lost to time, a fragment of a forgotten tradition of engineering or craft? Its enigmatic form bridges the known and the speculative, leaving observers to navigate a delicate balance between archaeological context and the allure of mystery. Speculative theories have flourished around the tri-lobed disk. Some enthusiasts propose that it was a component of an advanced mechanical device, perhaps even a rotary tool or a type of early turbine, hinting at technological capabilities beyond what is currently documented in early dynastic Egypt. Others suggest that the shape holds symbolic or cosmic meaning, representing celestial bodies or abstract concepts encoded in the stone by artisans who understood principles of geometry, balance, and symmetry that continue to inspire awe today. While these ideas remain speculative, the disk's design invites the imagination to consider possibilities far beyond conventional interpretations. Scientific examination has confirmed the authenticity and antiquity of the object. The stone is consistent with materials available during the First Dynasty, and microscopic analysis shows tool marks characteristic of early Egyptian stoneworking techniques. Yet despite rigorous study, the disk's exact function, or meaning, remains elusive. Unlike inscriptions, texts, or conventional artifacts that provide context, the Tri-Lobed disk offers only its form, challenging modern observers to infer purpose without the benefit of explanatory records. This absence of direct evidence is what fuels both scholarly intrigue and public fascination, as it embodies a mystery tangible yet inaccessible, familiar yet unknowable. The disk's subtle elegance is matched by its capacity to provoke thought. Its three-lobed form is symmetrical, orderly, and yet enigmatic, like a question carved in stone. It compels observers to consider the ingenuity of early civilizations, the potential for lost knowledge, and the human impulse to blend art, craft, and understanding into a single object. The Tri-Lobed disk of Sabu is not merely an artifact. It is a conversation across millennia, a silent challenge to our assumptions about the capabilities of those who lived at the dawn of organized civilization. As one contemplates the disk today, tracing the curves of its lobes and imagining the hands that crafted it, it becomes clear that some mysteries are preserved not in inscriptions or records, but in the quiet geometry of objects themselves. What knowledge was encoded in this seemingly simple stone? Was it a ritual object, a functional tool, or a symbol of understanding lost to time? The Tri-Lobed disk of Sabu does not answer. It invites wonder, reflection, and the realization that even in the oldest layers of human history, there remain objects that challenge our understanding and urge us to ask, what else lies hidden in the ingenuity of our ancestors, waiting to be rediscovered? Deep within the remote Ural mountains of Russia, where dense forests stretch for miles and peat bogs have preserved traces of a distant past, a remarkable artifact rests quietly in the shadow of human history, the Shigir Idol. Unlike the familiar stone monuments of ancient civilizations, this colossal wooden figure stands out for its age, intricacy, and enigmatic presence. Carved from larchwood, the idol reaches nearly 5 meters in height, its surface adorned with geometric motifs, enigmatic faces, and symbolic markings, whose meaning continues to elude researchers. Discovered in a peat bog in 1890, the Shigir Idol is one of the oldest known wooden sculptures in the world, radiocarbon dating, placing it at roughly 11,600 years old, nearly twice the age of the Egyptian pyramids. At first glance, the Shigir Idol's form is striking yet puzzling. Its elongated body is divided into sections, each covered with grooves, zigzags, and chevron patterns. Human-like faces emerge from the upper portions, eyes wide and haunting, gazing across millennia as if observing the world beyond the forest. These faces are not mere representations. They are stylized, abstract, and deeply symbolic, blending human, animal, and perhaps spiritual qualities into a single form. The sheer scale of the sculpture suggests a monumental effort, one that would have required sophisticated tools, coordination, and a cultural imperative compelling enough to dedicate months, if not years, to its creation. The Shigir Idol's discovery in the peat bog adds to its mystery. The wood was remarkably preserved, its chemical composition and the low oxygen environment of the bog preventing decay over thousands of years. Such preservation allows us to witness details that would have been lost in ordinary conditions: the precise grooves of the carvings, the subtle variations in depth and spacing, and the faint traces of tools used to shape and decorate the surface. Yet, despite our ability to study it in detail, the purpose and meaning of the idol remain obscure. Was it a totem, a spiritual guardian, or a symbolic record of a culture long vanished? Mainstream archaeology offers explanations grounded in the context of post-glacial hunter-gatherer societies in northern Eurasia. The motifs on the idol are often interpreted as representations of cosmology, clan symbols, or mythological beings. It is suggested that the idol may have been part of a ritual site, a marker of sacred space, or a conduit for communicating with the spiritual world. Some researchers argue that its abstract and geometric patterns encode knowledge or beliefs about the natural and supernatural realms, capturing the worldview of a society navigating a harsh, newly transformed landscape after the last ice age. Yet, the Shigir Idol also invites more speculative interpretations, particularly because of its age and complexity. Its carvings are intricate and deliberate, suggesting symbolic thinking and cultural sophistication far earlier than previously assumed for hunter-gatherer communities in this region. Could these abstract faces represent spirits or deities known to a lost tradition of shamanic practice? Might the repeated geometric patterns encode information about seasons, celestial cycles, or territorial boundaries? And what does it say about early human creativity that such an imposing, symbolic object could be conceived and executed without the sedentary, urbanized societies often assumed necessary for monumental art? One of the most striking aspects of the idol is its modular construction. Originally, the Shigir Idol may have consisted of 7 interconnected wooden planks bound together to create a single, monumental figure. This method of construction implies not only engineering ingenuity, but also a conceptual understanding of modular design and the durability of materials. Such sophistication challenges conventional timelines for the development of complex symbolic and artistic expression, raising questions about the social and cognitive capacities of post-glacial communities. Scientific analyses, including dendrochronology and radiocarbon dating, have confirmed the idol's extraordinary antiquity. These studies underscore a fascinating contradiction. The Shigir Idol is at once prehistoric and highly sophisticated, simple in its raw material, yet complex in its form and execution. Its creators remain anonymous, their motivations largely lost to history, leaving the idol as a silent witness to a world we can only imagine. It embodies the intersection of art, ritual, and technology, a relic that transcends conventional categories and defies easy interpretation. The idol's enigmatic presence resonates across time. Even today, visitors and researchers alike are struck by the immediacy of its gaze, the abstract yet deliberate geometry, and the sheer scale of human effort encapsulated in this ancient wooden form. It stands as a testament to early human ingenuity and the capacity for symbolic thought long before the rise of cities, writing systems, or monumental stone architecture. The Shigir Idol is more than an artifact. It is a bridge to a vanished world, an echo of ritual, myth, and creativity that speaks in a language we are only beginning to understand. As one contemplates the Shigir Idol, questions multiply. Who carved this towering figure, and why? What beliefs, fears, or aspirations did it embody? Was it a spiritual guardian of the forest, a record of knowledge, or a ritual object meant to guide or protect a community? The idol offers no answers, only a window into a prehistoric mind, reminding us that human creativity and symbolic thinking extend far deeper into time than we often assume. It is a silent challenge to historians, archaeologists, and curious observers alike. What else remains hidden in the bogs, forests, and forgotten corners of the past, waiting to illuminate the lives of those who walked the earth thousands of years before us? High atop the rolling hills of the Mittelberg in Germany, under an expansive sky that has inspired wonder for millennia, a small bronze disc was unearthed in 1999 that would forever challenge our understanding of Bronze Age Europe. Known as the Nebra Sky Disk, This artifact is unassuming at first glance, just 30 centimeters in diameter, with a slight curvature and a weight of just over 2 kilograms. Yet upon closer inspection, its surface reveals a constellation of gold symbols, a crescent moon, a full sun or circular disk, and clusters of stars, including what appears to be a depiction of the Pleiades. This disk, crafted some 3,600 years ago, is more than an object. It is a window into the cosmos as seen by people living in an era long before telescopes, astrophysics, or written astronomical records. The discovery of the disk was extraordinary. Buried alongside bronze swords, axes, and other ceremonial items, the disk was found in a carefully arranged deposit, suggesting ritual significance. The context of its burial implies that the Nebra Sky Disk was not simply decorative. It carried symbolic or functional weight for the society that produced it. Scientific dating places it at around 1600 BCE, situating it in the early Bronze Age, a time when communities across Europe were developing complex metallurgy, trade networks, and social hierarchies. Yet nothing in the archaeological record of this period prepared researchers for such a sophisticated representation of the heavens. What makes the Nebra Sky Disk truly remarkable is its level of astronomical knowledge. The disk appears to encode an understanding of lunar and solar cycles, and perhaps even the alignment of celestial bodies with the agricultural calendar. The position of the sun and moon motifs suggests that its creators were tracking celestial events with precision, using the disk potentially as a tool to regulate planting, harvest, or ceremonial observances. The Pleiades cluster, a key feature in many ancient mythologies, may have served as a seasonal marker, signaling changes in weather or agricultural cycles. For an artifact of this age, the combination of artistry and empirical observation is extraordinary. Mainstream archaeological interpretations have emphasized the disk's potential role as a cosmological instrument, a ritual object, or a symbol of social cohesion. It may have functioned as a mnemonic device for teaching or recording knowledge, a ceremonial talisman imbued with symbolic authority, or even a marker of elite power, demonstrating mastery over both metallurgy and astronomical understanding. Yet, questions persist. How did Bronze Age Europeans acquire the precise knowledge necessary to represent celestial mechanics so accurately? Was this knowledge localized, developed over generations, or transmitted across vast networks of early European communities? The Nebra Sky Disk also invites more speculative interpretations. Some have suggested that it could represent an early attempt at star mapping, a proto-astronomical instrument comparable to later devices like the Antikythera mechanism. Others propose that the disk reflects a sophisticated symbolic worldview, encoding myths, religious beliefs, or cosmological principles that are now lost to us. Its combination of precise metalworking and astronomical symbolism has led to fringe theories proposing that the disk could reflect knowledge of the heavens that predates known civilizations' documented understanding, hinting at an unrecognized depth of early European astronomical observation. While these ideas remain unproven, they underscore the disk's enduring power to provoke wonder. Scientific analysis has confirmed both the disk's authenticity and its complexity. Metallurgical studies reveal that the bronze was likely cast using techniques consistent with early Bronze Age metallurgy, and the gold inlays were carefully hammered and fixed into etched depressions with precision. Microscopic examination of tool marks suggests advanced workmanship, while isotopic analysis points to metal sources from across Central Europe, implying networks of trade and communication that facilitated the creation of such an extraordinary object. Yet, despite all these insights, the disk's ultimate purpose remains elusive, a tantalizing enigma locked in bronze and gold. What is particularly compelling about the Nebra Sky Disk is its combination of scientific sophistication and artistic abstraction. The symbols are immediately recognizable, yet their precise meaning is open to interpretation. Was the disk primarily a practical tool for astronomical observation, a ceremonial artifact, or a synthesis of both? Did it serve as a map of the heavens for a select priestly class? Or was it a symbolic narrative accessible to a wider community? The answers remain tantalizingly out of reach, obscured by time and the limited written record of early Bronze Age Europe. The disk's discovery has had profound implications for our understanding of prehistoric knowledge. It challenges assumptions about the intellectual and observational capacities of Bronze Age societies, suggesting that their engagement with the cosmos was both systematic and sophisticated. It reminds us that human curiosity, creativity, and the desire to understand the natural world are timeless traits, stretching back into periods we often imagine as primitive or unsophisticated. As one gazes upon the Nebra Sky Disk today, tracing the golden symbols under the museum lights, one is struck by its enduring mystery. Who envisioned this disk, and for what precise purpose? How did they conceptualize the patterns of the heavens with such clarity and intent? And what other knowledge, now lost to time, might have accompanied it, guiding the lives, ceremonies, and understanding of the cosmos for an entire community? The Nebra Sky Disk offers no answers, only questions, inviting us to peer into the night sky through the eyes of those who looked before us and to wonder what other cosmic secrets remain hidden, waiting to be rediscovered. In the quiet forests of central Minnesota, among pine and birch trees stretching toward the northern sky, lies a relic that has puzzled historians, linguists, and archaeologists for over a century: the Kensington Runestone. Roughly 3 feet tall, its surface etched with symbols and runic inscriptions, the stone appears ordinary at first glance, its gray surface mottled with lichen and weathered by time. Yet the carvings it bears are anything but ordinary. They tell a story in a language that some claim connects Scandinavia to North America long before the age of Columbus. Discovered in 1898 by a Swedish-American farmer named Olof Oman while clearing his fields near Kensington, the stone has sparked debate, controversy, and fascination ever since. The inscriptions, arranged in neat linear columns, are immediately recognizable as runes, the script used by Norse cultures during the medieval period. Scholars have painstakingly studied the text, which purports to describe a group of Scandinavian explorers traveling through the region in 1362, far earlier than the commonly accepted arrival of Europeans in this part of North America. The stone details the names of men, the number of their company, and even mentions encounters with native peoples, painting a vivid, though mysterious, picture of exploration and survival. The level of detail is striking. It reads not merely as a random arrangement of symbols, but as a coherent account of events, organized and deliberate. Mainstream scholarship remains cautious. Many historians argue that the Kensington Runestone is a hoax, perhaps created in the late 19th century to generate local interest, reflect Scandinavian heritage, or exploit contemporary fascination with Viking lore. Linguistic analyses have highlighted anomalies in the runes themselves, letter forms, grammatical constructions, and terminology that appear inconsistent with 14th century Scandinavian usage. Critics argue that these inconsistencies, combined with the stone's unexpected location deep within Minnesota, point toward a clever fabrication by a later hand, perhaps even by Oman himself or a contemporary. Yet the stone continues to defy simple categorization. Scientific examinations of the weathering patterns on the carvings suggest a level of age that some researchers argue is inconsistent with a 19th century origin. The lichen growth and oxidation, when compared to nearby stones with similar exposure, hint at a longer period of environmental interaction than a modern forgery would allow. Additionally, the geography described in the inscription matches features of the landscape with surprising accuracy, suggesting the possibility, however remote, of genuine observation or knowledge of the region. Could it be that someone did travel these lands centuries before documented European contact, leaving behind a testament that has been obscured by time and skepticism? Speculative interpretations of the Kensington Runestone abound. Some suggest it could be evidence of lost Viking expeditions, undocumented journeys that predate the well-known settlements of Newfoundland and Greenland. Others propose that the inscription represents a blending of oral tradition and creative storytelling, perhaps a commemorative artifact produced in the 19th century, but inspired by genuine knowledge passed down from earlier Scandinavian settlers. Less conventional theories even propose a connection to unknown travelers from Europe or beyond, hinting at a complex network of migration and exploration long before mainstream history acknowledges such movement. While these ideas cannot be conclusively proven, they underscore the enduring allure of the stone. It is a puzzle that challenges our assumptions and invites imaginative consideration of what might have been possible. Beyond its historical and linguistic implications, the Kensington Runestone raises broader questions about the transmission of knowledge, memory, and storytelling. If the stone is genuine, it suggests that human exploration of the Americas began far earlier than generally accepted, reshaping our understanding of pre-Columbian contact. If it is a forgery, it remains an artifact of cultural imagination, revealing the desires, anxieties, and aspirations of Scandinavian American communities at the turn of the 20th century. In either case, the stone is a tangible connection to the past, a conversation across time between those who created it and those who study it today. The materiality of the stone itself is also compelling. Carved from local granite, its surface retains the texture of the natural rock, even where the runes are inscribed. The effort required to carve deep, legible runes into such a hard surface suggests intent, skill, and patience, whether in medieval Scandinavia or rural Minnesota. Every line, groove, and curve is a testament to the hand that worked upon it, creating a physical narrative meant to endure. And endure it has. For over a century, the stone has been examined, debated, and displayed, captivating generations of researchers, skeptics, and curious observers alike. As one contemplates the Kensington Runestone, the mind is drawn to questions that transcend the object itself. Who carved these runes, and under what circumstances? Were they explorers documenting their journey, or storytellers weaving a tale for future generations? Could the inscriptions represent lost knowledge of early transatlantic travel, or do they speak to the enduring human fascination with heritage, identity, and the past? The stone remains silent, yet in its silence it speaks volumes, inviting us to wonder, to question, and to recognize that history is not always straightforward. The Kensington Runestone stands as a reminder that artifacts can challenge our understanding of time, place, and possibility. It embodies a tension between evidence and interpretation, between skepticism and wonder, and between the known and the unknowable. Whether genuine or fabricated, it continues to provoke thought and inspire exploration, compelling us to consider how many other secrets lie hidden in forests, fields, and forgotten corners of the world, waiting to redefine what we believe about the past. Beneath the vast, snow-dusted expanse of Russia's Ural Mountains, in remote deposits long overlooked by industrial miners and casual explorers, a peculiar series of artifacts has emerged, captivating the curiosity of scientists and the imagination of enthusiasts. The Ural metal micro-objects. Unlike the monumental relics of ancient civilizations or the ornate craftsmanship of well-documented cultures, these tiny metallic items are almost startling in their precision and sophistication, so small that they can easily be held in the palm of a hand. Some measure only millimeters across, yet they display a level of engineering that seems incongruous with their supposed age, hinting at technological knowledge far beyond what one might expect from the region's prehistoric inhabitants. The objects were discovered in layers of black coal and mineral deposits, often embedded in sediments estimated to be tens of millions of years old. They are composed of metals that, in many cases, suggest advanced smelting and alloying techniques. Cylindrical shapes, discs, tiny rods, and intricate gear-like structures emerge under magnification, their surfaces sometimes exhibiting symmetry and uniformity that would be challenging even with modern tools. It is not merely their size that intrigues investigators, but their apparent functionality. Many objects seem engineered to interlock, rotate, or move in some deliberate fashion, evoking comparisons to miniature machinery rather than primitive ornamentation. Mainstream scientific interpretations have approached the findings cautiously. Some researchers argue that the items are naturally occurring formations, mineral concretions shaped by geological processes over millions of years. Others propose that they are the remnants of modern contamination, perhaps introduced into the strata during mining or excavation. The challenge lies in the unusual combination of microscopic precision and complex geometry, which appears far beyond what is typically associated with naturally occurring crystalline or metallic structures. How could the forces of nature alone create objects that resemble manufactured components with interlocking parts? The debate becomes even more intriguing when considering their potential age. Certain reports suggest that the layers in which these micro-objects were found predate known human technological activity by millions of years. If so, these items would not only predate the advent of metallurgy, but challenge the entire timeline of technological evolution as understood by conventional archaeology and geology. Could these objects represent lost knowledge, the traces of an unknown civilization, or even non-human technological activity? The possibility is both unsettling and exhilarating, for it implies a history of intelligence, or at least purposeful design, that does not fit within current paradigms. Speculative theories have flourished around the Ural metal micro-objects. Enthusiasts propose that they may be remnants of an advanced prehistoric culture capable of miniaturized engineering. Others suggest that they could be extraterrestrial in origin, left behind by visitors whose technology surpassed that of humans at the time. Some even point to the resemblance between these objects and components of modern devices, drawing tantalizing parallels to gears, bearings, or mechanical connectors. While such hypotheses are highly controversial, they underscore the enduring allure of the micro-objects. Their inscrutability invites us to consider possibilities beyond conventional history, to imagine worlds and knowledge systems that have been lost or forgotten. Scientific examination has yielded fascinating, if incomplete, insights. Metallurgical analysis reveals alloys that include combinations of metals not typically associated with ancient artifacts, and surface structures suggest that at least some form of shaping or machining may have occurred. Microscopic studies indicate wear patterns consistent with mechanical use, raising further questions about their function. Yet, the precise origins, purpose, and creators of the Ural metal micro-objects remain enigmatic. They sit at the intersection of geology, archaeology, and the inexplicable, resisting categorization and challenging assumptions about the capabilities of both nature and humanity. The micro-objects also provoke deeper philosophical considerations. They are tiny, yet monumental in their implications, suggesting that technological sophistication may have existed in forms, places, or epochs that we have yet to recognize. Their discovery compels us to reflect on the limitations of human knowledge. What if our current understanding of history and technological development is only a fraction of the truth? What other remnants of lost knowledge or forgotten ingenuity lie hidden in remote corners of the earth, waiting to be uncovered by patient observation and careful study? As one examines these objects under a magnifying lens, marveling at their intricate forms and precise construction, it becomes clear that the Ural metal micro-objects are more than mere curiosities. They are questions crystallized in metal, silent witnesses to processes or events that remain veiled in time. They challenge us to reconsider what we believe about the past, about intelligence, and about the possibilities of human or non-human innovation. Ultimately, the Ural metal micro-objects remain a riddle that straddles science and speculation. Were they created by unknown civilizations, remnants of natural processes that mimic design, or traces of technology beyond our current understanding? Each tiny artifact carries with it a whisper from deep time, urging us to look closer, to question more deeply, and to remain open to the unknown. What other secrets might lie embedded in the strata of our planet, awaiting discovery, ready to rewrite our understanding of history, innovation, and the capabilities of life itself? In the arid plains of southern Peru, where the earth stretches flat beneath a sky of relentless blue, and the desert winds whisper across the sands, an extraordinary discovery has emerged that challenges the boundaries of archaeology and human imagination. The Nazca mummy figures. Hidden within burial sites near the ancient Nazca lines, those enigmatic geoglyphs etched into the desert centuries ago, these figures have captivated the attention of researchers and the public alike. Unlike traditional mummies, wrapped carefully in textiles and laid to rest according to known Andean practices, the Nazca figures present a startling deviation. Elongated skulls, three-fingered hands, and skeletal proportions that differ significantly from any human remains documented in the region. The figures are remarkably preserved. Their skin, darkened by age and environmental exposure, bears the texture of leathery parchment, while the bones, lightweight yet dense, retain anatomical features that defy simple classification. Some specimens measure only a fraction of average human height, while others approach more conventional dimensions, creating a striking heterogeneity that complicates attempts at straightforward explanation. The heads are disproportionately large, with extended crania and unusually shaped eye sockets, while the hands consistently display 3 digits, each tipped with what appear to be hardened nails. These physical traits immediately set the Nazca mummy figures apart from any known pre-Columbian population. Mainstream scientific explanations are cautious and measured. Some researchers propose that the features may be the result of intentional cranial deformation, a practice historically observed in South America, in which infant skulls were bound to create elongated shapes. Others suggest that environmental conditions and mummification techniques could account for anomalies in bone preservation and appearance. Yet, even with these considerations, certain features, the number of fingers, the uniformity of cranial extension, and the detailed morphology of the skeletal structures, remain difficult to reconcile with known human variation. Could these figures represent a branch of humanity previously unknown, or are they artifacts of advanced artistic or ritualistic expression? The context of the discovery adds layers of intrigue. Many of the figures were found in burial chambers alongside offerings typical of the Nazca culture, ceramic vessels, textiles, and ceremonial objects. This juxtaposition implies that they were treated with reverence, integrated into cultural practices, and regarded as beings of significance. Were these figures intended to represent deities, spiritual intermediaries, or symbolic ancestors? Or did they serve a more practical function, perhaps as effigies used in ritual, designed to embody certain principles or beings believed to inhabit the spiritual or natural world? Speculative interpretations naturally arise from the unusual morphology of the figures. Some enthusiasts suggest they may represent non-human entities, perhaps even beings of extraterrestrial origin, brought to the attention of humanity in a context of ritual and reverence. Others propose that they are remnants of a hybrid or unknown hominin species, preserved by natural mummification and ancient funerary techniques. While these hypotheses remain highly controversial and largely untested, they highlight the capacity of the Nazca mummy figures to stretch the boundaries of conventional understanding, forcing questions that extend beyond archaeology into anthropology, biology, and even cosmology. Scientific study has attempted to shed light on the figures' origins. carbon dating has placed some specimens within a time frame consistent with the late Nazca period, roughly 200 BCE to 600 CE, aligning them with established cultural layers of the region. Anatomical analysis confirms that the structures are not the product of modern fabrication, and DNA studies, where available, aim to clarify lineage, ancestry, and potential anomalies. Yet these studies, while offering fascinating data, still leave key questions unresolved. How and why did these beings, or representations of beings, acquire such distinctive morphology? What knowledge, beliefs, or intentions underpinned their creation and preservation? Beyond the scientific, the figures provoke profound philosophical reflection. They are both intimately human and profoundly alien, bridging the known and the unknown in a way few archaeological discoveries do. Their three-fingered hands and elongated skulls challenge our perception of normalcy, forcing consideration of the diversity of life and the ways in which ancient societies conceptualized existence, spirituality, and identity. Were these figures meant to inspire awe, to act as guardians of sacred sites, or to record a reality lost to time? Each unanswered question deepens the mystery, emphasizing the limitations of contemporary understanding. As one studies the Nazca mummy figures today, observing their meticulous preservation and enigmatic form, it is impossible not to feel a profound sense of wonder. Each figure embodies a story, or perhaps multiple stories, layered across centuries of desert heat and shifting sands. Their presence challenges the assumption that we fully comprehend the scope of human variation, cultural expression, or the breadth of possibility within ancient societies. They stand as silent witnesses, their gaze and form provoking curiosity, reflection, and an enduring sense of the uncanny. Ultimately, the Nazca mummy figures are more than relics of the past. They are questions cast in bone and skin, invitations to explore what remains hidden in the archaeological record. Were they the products of human ingenuity and ritual, or do they point to biological or cultural phenomena that have yet to be understood? Could they reveal lost chapters of our history, or even challenge the boundaries of human evolution itself? The answers remain tantalizingly out of reach, leaving us to ponder what other secrets the deserts of Peru, and indeed the world, might still conceal, waiting for the moment they too are brought into the light. The soft, rolling hills of Japan's Tohoku region stretch into the mist, their dense forests and river valleys cloaked in an ethereal quiet. Amid these ancient landscapes, some of the most enigmatic remnants of Japan's prehistoric past lie buried beneath layers of soil and centuries of human habitation. Among them are the Dogu figurines, small humanoid clay creations that seem at once fragile and unsettling, delicate in their craftsmanship, yet imbued with a presence that defies simple explanation. Their discovery invites both awe and unease, a gentle whisper from a distant past that refuses to be fully understood. Unearthed primarily from the Jomon period, which spans roughly from 14,000 to 300 BCE, Dogu figurines have been found across northern and central Japan. Crafted from clay, many of these figurines are small, often no taller than 30 centimeters, yet their intricate designs speak volumes about the culture that produced them. Elaborate patterns cover their surfaces, spirals, ridges, and geometric shapes that suggest a meticulous attention to detail. Some Dogu are anthropomorphic, bearing exaggerated eyes, wide hips, or elaborate headpieces, while others take on more abstract forms that resist easy categorization. The sheer diversity of their design hints at a culture deeply engaged with symbolic expression, ritual, and perhaps a worldview that embraced both the known and the unknowable. Archaeologists have long debated the purpose of these enigmatic figures. The prevailing theory suggests that Dogu were objects of ritual, perhaps talismans intended to promote fertility, protect against disease, or channel spiritual energy. Some figurines are deliberately broken, a practice interpreted by scholars as a form of ritual deactivation, allowing the spirit or power embodied within to be released or transformed. Others display signs of wear that hint at repeated handling, suggesting they played an active role in the lives of their makers rather than serving as mere ornamental artifacts. Yet, despite decades of study, the precise significance of Dogu remains tantalizingly out of reach. One of the most striking features of many Dogu figurines is their oversized, almond-shaped eyes. Unlike anything typically found in contemporary art of the Jomon period, these eyes seem almost otherworldly, staring into the void with an intensity that can be disconcerting. Some researchers speculate that they may have represented heightened perception or spiritual insight, a lens through which the Jomon people sought to understand forces beyond the ordinary. Others, drawing from more speculative theories, wonder whether these figures could reflect encounters with phenomena that defy conventional explanation, perhaps even beings not of this world. The question lingers in the mind: were these simply symbolic, or were they capturing something extraordinary, something witnessed yet difficult to comprehend? Beyond their eyes, certain Dogu bear markings that some observers have likened to protective suits or body armor. Their segmented limbs, often adorned with symmetrical patterns, evoke imagery that is strikingly advanced, considering the technological limitations of the era. Could these forms have been purely artistic, or do they hint at a cultural imagination that visualized protective attire, even if never realized in practical terms? Fringe theories abound, suggesting that these patterns might encode knowledge or practices now lost, an ancient attempt to grapple with forces that are, for us, unknowable. The locations of these discoveries add another layer of intrigue. Dogu have been unearthed in diverse settings, from riverbanks to cave sites, from shallow settlements to areas buried beneath volcanic ash. Each site offers a clue, yet never a full explanation. Were they offerings left for the spirits of the land? Were they talismans intended to heal or curse? Or did they serve a more esoteric purpose, a conduit for energies that the Jomon people perceived but could not fully articulate? The spatial distribution of these figurines hints at a complex network of ritual and belief, one that leaves traces in the physical world but resists full reconstruction in our modern minds. There is a tactile quality to Dogu that continues to fascinate researchers. The clay, once fired, retains warmth, as if preserving an echo of the hands that shaped it. Their surfaces invite touch, and many collectors and scholars have noted an almost magnetic quality in the gaze of certain figures. Could it be that, like many objects of ritual around the world, the Dogu were more than symbolic, that they were vessels capturing intent, emotion, or even what some might call a spiritual resonance? Mainstream archaeology remains cautious, emphasizing cultural context and symbolism, yet the allure of the figurines persists precisely because of this ambiguity. Scientific investigations have also added to the mystery. Chemical analyses of the clay suggest that Jomon potters selected specific types of soil, perhaps for their structural properties, but possibly also for perceived energetic qualities. Experimental reconstructions of the firing techniques reveal remarkable sophistication. Despite the absence of kilns capable of maintaining high temperatures, many Dogu exhibit surprising durability and precision, hinting at a mastery of materials that challenges assumptions about prehistoric craftsmanship. Each layer of discovery seems to deepen the puzzle. These are not merely simple figurines, they are artifacts that demand attention and contemplation. Over the decades, countless interpretations have been proposed. Some scholars emphasize fertility and healing rituals, noting the frequent presence of exaggerated sexual characteristics or depictions of injury. Others point to shamanistic practices, suggesting that Dogu may have represented intermediaries between the human and the spirit worlds. Yet there is a persistent strain of speculation, one that refuses to be confined by academic orthodoxy. Could these figures have been inspired by visions, dreams, trance states, or encounters with phenomena that today we cannot explain? Were they, in some sense, recording experiences beyond ordinary perception, a visual language that encoded mysteries now inaccessible to us? Consider the sheer variety of forms. Some Dogu are squat and rounded, their features abstracted almost to the point of unrecognizability. Others are elongated, angular, and precise, with detailed appendages that defy simple classification. Some appear damaged or fractured, while others remain remarkably intact. Their diversity suggests a culture not merely producing ritual objects, but experimenting with form, meaning, and perhaps even communication with forces or entities beyond human understanding. What messages might these figurines carry, if only we could decipher the language of their shapes, patterns, and textures? The more one examines Dogu, the more the boundary between the known and the unknown begins to blur. They are at once tangible and elusive, artifacts that speak across millennia, yet whose full message remains stubbornly out of reach. In the quiet corners of museums or the dim earth of excavation sites, they sit, watching, enigmatic witnesses to a world that has long since disappeared. Their presence challenges our assumptions about prehistoric societies, their sophistication, their imagination, and their capacity to conceive of realms beyond the everyday. And so the mystery persists. We can catalog their forms, analyze their materials, and speculate about their purpose. Yet the Dogu retain an aura that refuses to be fully tamed by explanation. Were they merely ritual objects, or did they hold secrets we may never comprehend? Were the Jomon people recording spiritual truths, or merely expressing artistic abstraction? Did these figurines witness a world that intersected with ours in ways now lost to history? Each question opens another, and each answer seems to deepen the enigma rather than resolve it. As the mist rises again over the Tohoku Hills, it is easy to imagine the hands that shaped these small clay figures, shaping them with care, imbuing them with meaning, and placing them gently into the earth. The Dogu remain, silent and watchful, their presence a reminder that even in a world that prizes understanding and explanation, some mysteries endure. And perhaps that is their greatest gift, a quiet invitation to pause, to wonder, and to consider that there may always be corners of history that elude our grasp, waiting patiently for a new generation of seekers to look closer, to ask the questions we cannot yet answer. High in the cloud-kissed Andes of northern Peru, where mist coils through valleys and limestone cliffs rise sharply from the forested slopes, lie some of the most enigmatic remnants of a lost civilization, the Chachapoya sarcophagi, also known as the sarcophagi of Karagia or the Chachapoya mausoleums. These ancient burial structures are perched in seemingly inaccessible locations, clinging to vertical rock faces as if suspended between earth and sky. The sight is immediately arresting. Elongated anthropomorphic stone coffins, some reaching 2 meters in height, hollowed to house the remains of the dead, their features stylized in ways that evoke both reverence and mystery. To stand before them is to encounter a civilization that sought not merely to bury their dead, but to elevate them, physically and symbolically, above the ordinary world. The Chachapoya people, often called the Warriors of the Clouds, thrived between roughly 800 and 1470 CE, long before the arrival of the Inca in this region. Though little is known about their society due to the scarcity of written records, their architectural and artistic achievements speak volumes. The cliffside sarcophagi, like silent sentinels overlooking the Uchubamba Valley, reflect not only sophisticated engineering but also a deeply spiritual worldview. The coffins themselves are constructed from local clay, straw, and stone, shaped into rectangular or anthropomorphic forms, with faces etched or molded on the surface. Some display intricate geometric patterns, while others bear stylized depictions of eyes, noses, and mouths, suggesting a belief in maintaining the identity of the deceased even after death. The placement of the sarcophagi is as perplexing as their construction. Many are located hundreds of meters above valley floors, on cliffs accessible only by precarious ledges or narrow natural stairways. This raises immediate questions about the practical and symbolic motivations of the Chachapoya. Why expend such effort to deposit the dead in sites so difficult to reach? Mainstream interpretations suggest these locations were chosen for protection, both from natural elements and potential looters, while also symbolically elevating the dead closer to the spiritual realm. Yet the sheer audacity and precision of the construction hint at intentions that go beyond mere practicality, suggesting ritualistic or cosmological significance, perhaps marking a threshold between life and afterlife. The sarcophagi also spark questions about the Chachapoya conception of death and the afterlife. Unlike many cultures that bury the dead in communal cemeteries, the Chachapoya appear to have individualized burial sites, each carefully crafted to honor a particular person or lineage. Were these cliffside tombs reserved for elites, warriors, or spiritual leaders? Some scholars posit that the anthropomorphic features and carved expressions were intended to animate the dead in the spiritual sense, serving as guardians over the living, intermediaries between the human and supernatural worlds. Could these sarcophagi have functioned as part of a larger ritual landscape, one that integrated the mountains, sky, and forest into a complex spiritual cosmology? Speculative interpretations naturally arise from the dramatic visual and structural qualities of these coffins. Some suggest that the anthropomorphic design, with its stylized faces and gestures, may reflect encounters with otherworldly visions or beings encoded in the art and architecture of the Chachapoya. Others propose that these elevated tombs represent a lost technological knowledge, a mastery of construction and material engineering that allowed these people to manipulate heavy clay and stone in extreme environments. Could the Chachapoya have possessed insights into architectural stability and spatial orientation that rival modern engineering, enabling them to suspend human remains on sheer cliff faces with such permanence? Scientific examination has offered glimpses into the reality behind the mystery. Radiocarbon dating places many of the cliffside sarcophagi firmly within the Chachapoya cultural period, while osteological analysis reveals that the human remains were carefully mummified, often seated or wrapped in textiles that have largely decayed but occasionally leave traces. The combination of natural and anthropogenic materials, stone, clay, straw, and pigment, demonstrates sophisticated knowledge of preservation, construction, and environmental adaptation. Furthermore, the alignment of some sarcophagi with surrounding geographic features suggests that these sites were deliberately chosen to engage with sun, wind, or sacred landscape markers, underscoring a cosmological dimension to their placement. Yet, despite the clarity of these technical details, profound mysteries persist. The faces etched on the sarcophagi are at once human and abstract, leaving observers uncertain whether they are literal portraits, symbolic markers, or expressions of spiritual beings. The logic of their cliffside placement, while partially understood, continues to baffle researchers. How did the Chachapoya transport materials and construct these coffins in such challenging terrain? Could there have been techniques, now lost, that allowed for the precise stabilization and placement of these enormous clay and stone structures? The unanswered questions are as integral to their fascination as the physical artifacts themselves. Beyond technical and historical considerations, the Chachapoya sarcophagi evoke a deep philosophical reflection on mortality, memory, and the human desire to reach beyond the earthly plane. They remind us that ancient societies were not only skilled engineers, but also deeply invested in the spiritual and symbolic dimensions of life and death. By situating their dead high above the valley floor, the Chachapoya may have been asserting a connection to the cosmos, elevating the human spirit toward the heavens, or creating a permanent interface between the living and the dead. In this sense, the sarcophagi are more than tombs. They are expressions of belief, creativity, and the profound human impulse to leave a mark that endures beyond a single lifetime. As one gazes upon these cliffside coffins today, the mind cannot help but wander through the fog of history. Who were the individuals entombed here, and what roles did they play in the life of their community? What beliefs guided the Chachapoya in their meticulous construction and placement of these sarcophagi? How did they achieve the remarkable engineering feats required to suspend and stabilize these structures in such vertical and precarious locations? The answers remain tantalizingly out of reach, hidden in the mists that swirl around the Andean peaks. Ultimately, the Chachapoya sarcophagi are silent witnesses to a civilization that embraced complexity, mystery, and a profound reverence for the dead. They challenge our understanding of ancient engineering, ritual practice, and human creativity. They provoke wonder, asking us to imagine the lives, beliefs, and ingenuity of people who moved mountains, literally and metaphorically, to honor those who had passed. And in their stillness, perched high above the valley floor, they invite us to reflect on the many secrets of the ancient world that remain hidden, waiting for discovery, interpretation, and the enduring human fascination with life, death, and the unknown. Amid the bustling modernity of India's capital, in the serene expanse of the Qutb complex, stands an artifact that seems almost otherworldly in its resilience and silent grandeur, the Iron Pillar of Delhi. Rising nearly 7 meters above its stone base, composed of a single shaft of wrought iron, this monumental pillar captures the eye not for its size alone, but for its extraordinary condition. Despite having endured the vagaries of more than 15 centuries, rains, pollution, and the ceaseless march of time, it has remained virtually free of rust, its surface remarkably intact. For centuries, scholars, metallurgists, and curious travelers have marveled at the pillar, attempting to unravel the secrets of its longevity, construction, and purpose, only to find that some mysteries stubbornly resist explanation. The iron pillar is visually striking in its simplicity. Standing tall against the backdrop of the Qutb Minor and surrounded by other remnants of India's early medieval architecture, the shaft is smooth and cylindrical, tapering gently toward a rounded capital that once supported a now-vanished finial. Inscriptions etched near its base offer glimpses of its history. Dedicatory verses in Sanskrit, composed in the ornate script of the Gupta period, honor a king believed to be Chandragupta II, who ruled in the 4th to 5th century CE. The inscription celebrates his valor and devotion, hinting at the pillar's function as both a political statement and a spiritual offering. Yet, despite the words inscribed on its surface, the question of how such a massive iron structure could have been forged and erected with the technology of the time continues to perplex historians and engineers alike. The technical achievements embodied in the iron pillar are remarkable. Composed almost entirely of wrought iron, estimated to weigh over 6 tons, it exhibits metallurgical properties that are exceptional even by today's standards. Modern analysis has revealed that the pillar's high purity, combined with its unique method of forging and layering iron blooms, contributes to its extraordinary resistance to corrosion. Tiny traces of phosphorus in the composition, absent in modern steelmaking methods until relatively recently, appear to have created a protective passive layer on the surface, a natural defense against rust that has persisted for over 1,500 years. Yet how the ancient smiths achieved such uniformity and chemical precision without modern instruments remains a question that continues to baffle metallurgists. What processes, techniques, or insights allowed for this synthesis of strength, stability, and chemical resilience in an era we often consider technologically primitive? Beyond the scientific marvel, the iron pillar carries symbolic and cultural weight. Erected during the Gupta period, a time often celebrated as India's classical age, it is widely believed to have been a marker of sovereignty, commemorating the victories of Chandragupta II and asserting the enduring authority of his rule. Its placement in a prominent temple complex, aligned with celestial and architectural features, may also suggest spiritual or ritual significance, integrating political power with religious devotion. Could it have served as a symbol of cosmic order, a vertical axis connecting the earthly and divine, or as a demonstration of the ruler's mastery over both material and spiritual domains? Speculation surrounding the pillar extends into realms more mysterious than political symbolism. Some enthusiasts propose that the iron pillar's construction reflects knowledge of advanced metallurgy lost to time, hinting at a civilization capable of engineering feats that modern scholars still struggle to replicate without sophisticated equipment. Others suggest that the pillar's corrosion-resistant properties might indicate a profound understanding of chemical processes, a science seemingly ahead of its era. There are even more imaginative theories, proposing that the pillar represents an interface with the divine or cosmic, deliberately designed to endure beyond the lifespan of human civilizations, a sentinel of permanence in an impermanent world. Archaeological and metallurgical studies have offered insights, yet each discovery often deepens the mystery. Microscopic analysis confirms that the pillar was constructed using forge welding techniques, a labor-intensive process involving repeated heating, hammering, and joining of iron pieces. The precision required to produce a single uniform shaft, free of major flaws or weaknesses, speaks to the skill of ancient Indian smiths. Yet no records survive that describe the exact methods employed, leaving historians to reconstruct the process through observation and experimentation. How did they lift, stabilize, and erect such a heavy object without cranes or pulleys as we know them? How was the alignment achieved with such precision, ensuring the pillar would stand upright for centuries, unyielding to gravity and the forces of nature? The iron pillar also challenges perceptions of technological continuity. While we associate corrosion resistance with modern metallurgy, here is an artifact demonstrating chemical sophistication that has withstood centuries of exposure, yet similar techniques appear to vanish in subsequent generations. What circumstances allowed this knowledge to emerge, and why did it not become widespread or evolve further? Could the answers lie not only in technological skill, but also in ritual, cultural transmission, or the priorities of successive societies? The pillar embodies a paradox. At once, a product of its time and a phenomenon that seems to transcend it. Beyond the technical and historical, the pillar invites reflection on human ambition, permanence, and the desire to communicate across centuries. Its towering presence conveys a silent message to all who encounter it, a statement of resilience, endurance, and mastery over the physical world. The inscription may tell us of kings and their deeds, but the very survival of the pillar tells a story of human ingenuity, of vision realized in iron, and of a civilization's aspiration to achieve what would endure long after its creators have passed. It is both a monument and a question, a tangible artifact and an enduring enigma. As one gazes upon the iron pillar today, amidst the hum of tourists, the creak of nearby construction, and the rustle of trees in the courtyard, it is impossible not to feel a connection across time. Here is an object that embodies skill, art, and science, yet its methods remain partially concealed by the mists of history. What thoughts passed through the minds of the smiths who hammered and welded this massive shaft? Did they envision it lasting over a millennium, silently communicating a message to distant descendants and strangers alike? And what does it tell us about the intellectual and spiritual capacities of a civilization that could achieve such a synthesis of technology, symbolism, and permanence? Ultimately, the Iron Pillar of Delhi stands as both a testament and a mystery. It is a marvel of metallurgy, a relic of political and spiritual ambition, and an enduring challenge to our understanding of human capability. While science can explain much about its material composition, it cannot fully account for the ingenuity, determination, or perhaps the vision that made its creation possible. It raises questions that reach beyond the boundaries of technical analysis, touching upon the imagination, culture, and philosophical inclinations of a civilization that understood the value of permanence in a fleeting world. What other secrets might lie embedded in the artifacts of our past, waiting for curious eyes and patient minds to uncover? Could there be knowledge lost, waiting to resurface in ways that redefine what we consider possible? The Iron Pillar remains silent, yet it speaks volumes, a sentinel of iron that has witnessed empires rise and fall, challenging us to consider not only the achievements of our ancestors, but the mysteries that endure beyond the reach of time.